Good evening. It's Sunday. We're in the fish room. Today we are live with Mark Pyle. For everybody that doesn't know him, introduce yourself, sir. Oh, hold on.
Well, that's weird. How'd it get muted? Okay, there we go.
No idea. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
We were talking a second before that. That's weird, but yeah.
Yes.
I'm Mark Pyle. I have Pyle Aquatics is my business I have. Basically, I sell a lot of killifish, and my wife has got her kind of unofficial business called Pyle Aquatics, but she just rolls hers into mine. So we just go out and do educational and do fish shows and sell a lot of killifish and a lot of fish type of arts and crafts that my wife does. And so I've got a YouTube channel, Pyle Aquatics, that I was going live on like 6 months ago pretty consistently, but man, I got so busy doing so many different things that I couldn't keep up. I might be able to start doing it again. Maybe Tuesday night I'll start up again. I was kind of going on like at 9:30, but I started realizing, man, it's too late. By the time 9:30 rolls around, I am starting to get burnt out. So I just don't have the energy. So
I understand.
But trying to get everything done earlier to get on there is kind of a challenge. So it's kind of like, okay, I got to balance this out somehow.
Well, I mean, you are a busy man. We do chat back and forth. I see you a lot on Instagram. So, I mean, you are definitely a busy man. I understand that. So, what all are you into? I mean, I know snakes. I know killifish. You just said educational. I mean, you're around. So, just dabble a little bit into what's going on.
Well, of course, I work full time. So, I got a 7 to 4 job working for AT&T. I run Granbury, the city of Granbury, the city of Weatherford, all the communications that go in and out of there. Not just AT&T stuff. There's a lot of other phone companies and things have other communications going in and out of that town. So everything from like an ATM machine to regular old telephones to high-speed internet, the businesses that have 100 gig circuits that are running through their businesses. It doesn't matter what it is. So I travel between those two offices mainly, and then I've got another little office called Crescent that I go to. So that's what my normal job is, to make all the money, to make all this other stuff possible. Then, of course, I do the reptile stuff. Is kind of what I'm more known for. I've been doing that for almost 30 years now. So currently, I'm the president of the Dallas-Fort Worth Ornithological Society. Not a whole lot going on there since COVID. I kind of got burned out after cleaning up snake poop for so long. So I've got to get everything going again. We still do educational events throughout the year. So I do things like I think coming up in beginning of February, we'll do something called Kids Gone Wild at the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo, where we'll bring a bunch of native snakes out there, and not just snakes, native reptiles and non-native reptiles. It'll be a ton of stuff. But some of the friends and I are part of the group, and we get together and we bring our stuff out, put on display, and talk to people, and then also, of course, do all the fish related stuff. So I've got, I think right now I've got over it's about 150 containers of water with fish in it. So I guess not all of them have fish in it currently, but there's about 150 containers, and it's containers anything from small shoebox size all the way up to 150 gallon tall aquarium. So I've got most of the stuff is 5s and 10s gallon aquarium. Most of everything's in, but I probably have, I don't know, probably at least a dozen species of killifish right now with fry that I'm going to be selling down at the fish show down in Houston. It's on the beginning of Houston, the weekend after Thanksgiving. I think it's called Aquatic Nation, but we did that last year. Man, that was awesome. There was 8,500 people came through the door, and it has a big giant convention center. It's a huge area, and they divide it in the middle. And in the past years, they always have the reptile show on one side, and I think that last year it got over 25,000 people came to the reptile show. So they've decided, hey, why don't we rent the whole building out and use the other side and put fish in it? So it was like a mix between Aquashella and a really good local fish show. So I like it a lot because it's not full of vendors like Aquashella, but there's a lot more people like me, and the prices of tables were a fraction of what they are at Aquashella. So we got a lot of people in there just breeding fish and selling fish. So it's a really good show. This year, I bet it's even going to be a lot bigger too. So if you're anywhere in the Houston area, just stop by. It's going to be pretty cool, and I think it's going to grow into something better than Aquashella. I'm betting this year and definitely next year it'll be better than Aquashella because it'll be more local people growing stuff coming in from all over the country. Wild Fish Tanks was there last year from Florida. He came and hung out, so I think it's going to be a really good show. Then also I do well. I'm not actually doing it right now, but I'm also a falconer, so I like to go out hunting with with the birds of prey. Usually I use a red-tailed hawk. I've done that for several years, but that takes a lot of time and commitment too. And it's kind of like fish. You've got to be consistently feeding, consistently working with things. You got to constantly do it. So falconer, you're the same way. You've got to. I mean, you come home after work and if you're tired, not feeling good or whatever, it doesn't matter. The bird's got to be fed. You got to go work with it. So it's a real commitment. And right now, I don't have the time for that level of a commitment with all the other stuff I'm doing. So then other reptile stuff I do, like for Paramount Plus, some of the shows. There was a Bass Reeves. If you ever heard the Bass Reeves series, they had excellent series. But I was hired as a freelance guy to come on and keep people safe from venomous snakes. So my job was to walk around the sets and get there before everybody else. Me and the medic are the first people in, and we're the last people out. So we come in, they set up. I start doing my perimeter, checking every single thing. All those people have stuff laying all around. I got to lift all that stuff up, look, make sure there's no snakes under it. And if anything I catch, I've got to relocate venomous wise off the property pretty quick. And then this year I did one called Landman. Actually, I was just watching it before we started the show. It was just came out on Paramount Plus. Actually, it's a pretty good series. But the opening scene was they're inside of a big metal building, and that metal building they built on that guy's property. It's like a 7,000 acre property, and they built that just for the show. And I was there watching a bunch of guys build another set. It's like a barn, and then behind it there was like a fake front of a house. I guess they were using to shoot. I didn't see any shooting when I was there. I was only there for 2 weeks. Took a 2-week vacation to go work. So, I was making good money doing it. I make about the same amount of money doing that a day as I make at my normal job. So it was definitely worth doubling up on the money wise. And then on top of that, I do venomous. I'm a contractor for adaptation environmental services, and we do kind of a similar thing with education. We do snake education, and we do a venomous snake handling training. So yesterday I was out at a solar power plant. They're building right now. They're building it up, so they're always out there working, running into whatever's out there. Wildlife's there, including snakes, and they had safety coordinators from different parts of Texas, and there was going to be somebody from Louisiana. But there wasn't currently one from Louisiana, but they have sites all over the country. But at least in this region, they had everybody, all these safety guys come in, and we did them a training. So I did them a PowerPoint in the morning, going over everything from just where snakes are at, helping identify them, how they behave, safety stuff, and then in the afternoon after lunch, we actually got some snakes out. We went through how to use a hook, hook and tongs on non-venomous snakes first, then we went over to the venomous snakes. So at the end there, they got to handle some large rattlesnake, get it bucketed up and show them how to do it safely. So that's, some of the things I do. And plus, I play around with electronics all the time. I'm a ham radio guy too, so I've got a ham radio license. So I do the ham radio stuff, and then I'm playing around with these little. They're called Meshtastic. It's a little tiny radios. I put like 1/10 of a watt out, but they're able to connect each other. Is the magic behind it. So you can send text messages over the mesh, the network, so it doesn't go. You can go point to point with it. So if I was trying to contact you, but you're too far away from me to get a direct signal to you. The system is set up though it'll find the path to you through other people's devices. Of course, you can turn that off too, but everybody has their devices turned on to pass through, or routers set up and things like that, so people can talk. So this would be great for like a disaster, like over in North Carolina. You come in there and those units are real cheap too. They're like $20-$30 a unit. You can spread those things out throughout an area and be able to communicate without any kind of outside help. So they're all battery powered or solar powered. You can set them up. They're really low energy draw. So it's pretty cool stuff. I'm just learning about that now. So that's my latest thing I'm into.
Sounds like you're into a lot, man.
Yeah, I think the ADHD is my superpower. A lot of people consider it a handicap, but not for me. It's just I'm curious about everything, and I've got the whole power of the world right here in just my hand. I can look up anything. I can find out almost any information I could possibly want is going to be right here. And if it's not right here, then I can figure it out on my own. But it's pretty amazing.
ADHD is an amazing thing. I believe I know quite a few people that have it. Some of them function well, some of them don't. Me personally, I function on stress. The more stressful a situation, the better I work. Not even going to lie to you. That sounds weird.
Nope, not all to me.
Pressure is what keeps me going most of the time. So I understand.
Day to day, I'm sitting at work. I'm just wiring up one wire to one point to another point. And the simple stuff is boring as heck, man. I can't stand those days. But all of a sudden, I get a ticket that comes in, and I got a high-speed circuit down, and I get a bridge you get on, and you got 3 or 4 levels of management on. Everybody's freaking out because this thing's down. Man, I'm on. That's going to be a great day. Really trying to figure out the problems no one else can fix, and yeah, that makes my day. Makes it go fast too.
That's kind of me. I like things. I'm the guy that at work, if nobody else can figure it out, I'm the guy that has to. So basically, I'm the master tech manager / lead tech. It's what I am.
So what do you do?
I am a master automotive technician.
Okay.
And a shop manager.
Awesome.
So I run a little mom and pop operated shop. I've been in business since 1985. Started with a father and a son. Father passed away in 19. The son took over in 19. I started working there in 19. The son is semi-retired now. Not even 50 years old. Done made enough money to where he doesn't need to be there every day. So he promoted me to be the next in charge. I hit the ground running. Last year, we had the best year the company's ever had. Ever. And since 1985, profit-wise, best they've ever had. And that's not with, me doing anything different than being honest. That's the thing that a lot of shops don't do. People are not honest. There's legitimately enough wrong with a vehicle. You don't have to lie to a customer.
No.
And that's what people don't understand. They go into a place like just like, say, a Firestone. I'll give that for instance, because Firestone's everywhere. You go in there to get an oil change, and they come up, oh, well, you need $1,000 worth of work. That would deter somebody from coming back right away. I will say, hey, this is what's going on. I will give you options. You can choose to do them or not. We can spread it out as long as it's not safety. Safety will always be the number one thing I tell you to fix above everything. I'm not going to tell you, to fix, some fluids in the car that don't need to be changed or nothing like that. And that's where a lot of things that go sideways at places, because they're all about the easy, low-hanging fruit.
It's really hard to find an honest shop. I mean, man, I hate having to take my car to a shop because I know it's probably not going to get done right, and I'm going to get overcharged. It's just going to piss me off at the end of the day, and I'm going to probably redo it anyhow. So I've saved myself tons of money just doing my own. And now that you have this and you have YouTube, you can fix just about anything. It seems like now a big job like doing an engine job or replacing cam or something that'd be a little bit beyond my abilities. But my background, my schooling is for aviation. So I went to Spartan School of Aeronautics. I went through all the training they had except for engines. So even stuff with bolts on the engine, like alternators and generators, we built all that stuff. And so that anything pneumatics, oxygen systems, hydraulics, all air conditioning systems, everything we learned there at the school. So I can work on any part of an aircraft except for the engine. At least I'm certified to. And then I'm working for, worked on helicopter gyros for 4.5 years. And then I switched over to working for the phone company and getting paid double with less responsibility. So it seemed to be a good deal. Here's a question for you that I've been kind of wondering. I've had a couple of vehicles have some engine issues. And I'm thinking the problem is I only live 4 miles to work. So in the wintertime, by the time I get to work, my engine's not even fully warmed up. It's about 3/4 of the way warm. Is that causing damage?
What kind of car do you have?
Right now, I have a Santa Fe.
What year?
I think it's a 19. I just bought it recently. I haven't had anything work on it, so I can't remember.
The only problem with Hyundai is they have a lot of issues with carbon buildup with short trips.
It's a Kia.
Yeah, same thing.
It's the same. Okay.
Hyundai, Kia, same exact company. The only difference is one has a killed in action and the other one has an H. That's what I call a Kia. I'm not a Kia fan. I bought a brand new one, got rid of it with 3,800 miles. It rusted. So I will never go back and get there. But anyway, the directly injected engines by the Hyundai/Kia Corporation is known on short trips build up carbon on valves, pistons, piston rings, just anywhere that carbon can go, it's going to go. So I recommend running, like a higher octane fuel for shorter trips. And I mean, the best way you can say another thing you can do is buy a can of Seafoam and put it in a gas tank once a month.
Okay.
So if you fill it up once a month, because 4-mile trips, dude, that's what I do. Yeah. 4.5 miles, man. That's what I drive to work every day. I drive a Ford. I'm amazed it makes it 4.5 miles.
I'm not a fan of Fords. I've had some Fords at work, my work vehicles. Yeah, but see, it's either short trip like that, or I'm driving for hours.
Yeah.
So it's there's no in between. It seems like for me, even to go like up to visit Tommy last weekend, it's an hour just to go anywhere. It's an hour here. It seems like here.
I drove
you around here. We don't really gauge things by distance. It's by time. It's an hour from here. It's an hour and a half. It's 2 hours from here.
I went and visited my buddy Noisy Aquatics in Michigan. I drove my Ford. I think it's like the longest trip it's taken in its entire life. I mean, it did all right, except for the belly pan on it fell off.
Oh, well, that's not good. Yeah.
Ford put all this like foam crap under the bottom of their cars for sound deadening. And then underneath of the engine, they use the same thing to protect the turbo tubing. Well, they use rubber or steel washers in this foam crap, and it just rots through. So I was dragging it as I got off the Ohio Turnpike, and the lady at the toll booth was like, "Hey, you're dragging something." I'm like, "No shit, Sherlock. I can hear it, But my cars are
Southwest Pennsylvania, man. I know about that rust. Oh man,
rust is what kills cars. You know that, especially going from there.
Oh yeah, I remember driving to California once back in '92. I had probably I don't know how old that thing was. An old Sunbird. I drove it all the way to California, and while I'm there, all of a sudden the front end started having troubles. Like, what the heck's going on? I had a little connecting rod just rust off. To me, that's no big deal. That's just what happens when you're in Pennsylvania. No big deal. Got it off parts store, get a new one. So I stopped down there, try to find one, and go to it was like I had to go to a dealer for this part. So I go in there to them, and I show them the old part, and they're like, "What the heck? Where the hell did you come from? Never seen anything like this." And I'm going, "I don't rust like this. This is kind of normal." And they called everybody from the shop back. Everybody out, man, check this out, man. The thing rusted all the way through. And I'm going, yeah, that's normal.
It's normal.
I'm so glad being down here when you're working on vehicles, you don't have to worry about all that rust. Trying to break bolts loose and stuff. Oh man, it was a nightmare. So much easier here.
Yeah. That's a lot of the things up here, and being in the salt belt and rust belt. That's what you call it. You have a lot of issues with that.
Have cars gotten better over the years? No.
They rot faster now.
Oh man,
because they're made out of cheap.
My uncle had an old Chevy truck that was 1 year younger than I was, and he drove that thing until the whole bed completely rusted off. He took all what was left of it off, and he built a wooden bed on the truck. And that was pretty cool, man. When he did 2x6s, he worked at a building houses, and he took leftover pieces and parts, and he built all kinds of stuff. So he built a whole bed of his truck out of wood, and it lasted longer than the metal did.
Yeah, there's nothing worth it. There's nothing worth it anymore. I mean, being honest with you, I have my Ford's a 13. It's a 13 Ford Fusion. It's got rust on it. My 16 Honda Odyssey barely got any rust on it. And I've got an 06 Honda Accord that has less rust on it than my Ford. And it's been in Ohio its whole life. So they're not making them worth anything. Yeah. There's one thing I did want to touch on. You were talking about aviation background. So I originally went to school. My first high school was Aviation High School on the Shoreway in Cleveland, Ohio. I went there to be an aircraft mechanic, essentially.
That's a high school?
It was. It was one of the classes or one of the high schools they offered here. I'll be damned I wasn't there 6 weeks and they closed the school.
Oh, man.
I'm thinking, I could have been working for somebody making more money than I make now.
Yeah, you might be surprised. I did it, worked on helicopter gyros for a while, and realized that man, it was there's nothing more. It was kind of worse than the automotive industry. I thought, man, it was just people that couldn't make it automotive industry went over to the aviation stuff. I didn't enjoy it that much at all. So I'm glad I got out of that. But I'm fortunate in an area that my high school right here that my kids went to. Of course, they didn't go through this class, but they have an aviation class in there where they build an aircraft, take a kit aircraft, and through the whole school year they build it. At the end of the year, they actually take it up test flights. So I thought, man, I can't imagine having that when I was a kid. Oh, that's so freaking sweet. Oh,
Tommy told me I could have helped Boeing not fall out of the air.
My dad was a mechanic, aircraft mechanic. I know he did instrumentation for a while. Then he did landing gear. So I remember he died when I was 10. So I remember going up there. He forgot something at work one time. He had to go back there. He took me with him and walking through there, man, seeing all the big the whole landing gear sitting there and tearing it apart and stuff. Oh man, I was hooked. So that's what I wanted to be from a little kid.
I bet. My dad had a shop when I was a kid. I've been working on cars since I was 8. So, I'm 8 years old doing, brakes on a Cadillac Fleetwood. It is what it is. I don't think there's anything I haven't done in the automotive world. Other than build a car I've built a car pretty much from the ground up. So, I've done it all, except for I did body work, did paint. I haven't done upholstery. There we go. There's something I haven't done.
It's kind of funny you mentioned upholstery because there's a guy that was using, I can't remember what car it was, but basically the seats out of the car, the foam in that, he was using that for a filtration system for his aquariums, using that for sponge filters. Yeah, I was like, well, that seems like there's a lot of chemicals in that. And that doesn't sound like a good idea, but he was, a really well-known guy. I can't remember who it was, but it was like, hey, he did it for years.
Wow. Let's go to the junkyard and cut some seats.
It was on the Aquarium podcast. Those guys do the Aquarium podcast. One of those guys on the show there, he did that. They were using upholstery, using the foam.
That is wild.
More than one way to do things, that's for sure.
I'm pretty sure it would work. It would filter some stuff. It filters farts out, for God's sake.
Definitely seems to.
Yeah, it does a good job. It hides and takes everything in a car. So, it's got to be some decent foam. What do you think the parts per million would be on that?
I have no idea. It looked pretty fine, I think.
That's wild. That's something I might have to
sell. As long as it's open cell instead of closed cell, so stuff goes through it, doesn't block it, more like an insulation. That worked fine. I've worked on a lot of vehicles. I grew up poor, man. You do it on your own. You're in college and oh yeah, you're in college. All your college buddies' cars are broken, so it was every weekend we were working on everybody's cars, trying to get brakes fixed. And man, I remember doing that a lot. In fact, my daughters came over a couple weekends ago. She calls me up at work like on Friday, going, "Hey, my front tire sounds like something's grinding in it." I was like, she was, I think it's a brake. So it's like, it might be. Because it just rained too, and it hadn't rained in a long time. And sometimes the rust builds up on the thing. And so if you just start moving a little bit, you get a little bit of a grind sound just for a moment. So I asked her, she goes, "No, it's always doing it." I was like, "Okay, well, bring it over." She's, "I'm just going to buy brake pads." Well, let me take a look at it first, see what's going on before you start spending money. Yeah, she pulls in. I pull out. I didn't get 10 feet down the street, hit the brakes once. Oh, yep, you got some serious problem. So yeah, she had a brake. One of the pins up there had frozen in place and started wearing it unevenly. So it was no big deal.
A little heat, get the pin loose, good to go. See, now that's another subject with me when it comes to cars. You go to shops just because the pins are frozen in the caliper. Oh, you got to buy a new caliper. Your caliper's seized. No, it's not. Learn how to use it. Learn how to use a torch.
Yeah, it wasn't even seized in there. I just took a pair of pliers and just moved a little bit, and it came right out. It wasn't completely froze like you see up there. It was barely. That's the first time I've ever seen it happen here. No.
That is the common misconception with mechanics. They want to replace the part instead of taking the time to fix it.
Same thing in electronics world too. Right now it's you replace the whole board that goes bad, and throw the board link in a new board, and they just scrap the old board. When I was working in the aviation on the gyros and stuff, it was all electrical mechanical gyros. So we were working on component level stuff. You bring it in, the thing wasn't running, we'd take it apart, take the electronics out of it, and I would sit there at the bench and troubleshoot down all the way down to the components and change out the transistors or whatever was bad on the thing, you know. And the first thing, people call me over to the bench. Remember, one guy calls me over and says, "Hey, I can't get voltage. I can't figure what's wrong." He wasn't a real smart guy anyhow. So I walk over there. First thing I do is reach over his bench, turn the power on to the board, and it fires right up. And I'm going like, "So what's the issue?" He goes, "Oh, how'd you do this?" I just turned it on. Oh, he forgot to turn the freaking power switch on. Of course, I've done it too, but it takes you 5 seconds. You're going, okay, no power there. You start looking, go back up through. Hey, wait, I'm not getting power in. What's going on? Oh, my light's off. I'll turn the power on, you dummy. But
yeah,
aren't that good.
Yeah, some people just don't know I always say it's you got to keep it simple. You got to start with the basics. I mean, literally start with the basics.
Power coming in. All right, yeah. He's a guy too, man. He set off the fire smoke alarms in the building once. He had his little board down. I don't know what he did, but I'm sitting over at my desk, and all of a sudden I see this flashing light. I look over there, and his board is on fire. It's shooting sparks out of the thing, man. It's starting to smoke, and he's just standing there staring at it. So I had to push myself back, run over there, and turn the power off to the stupid thing. Walked back over my bench and sat back down, and the freaking smoke alarm started going off. You idiot, man. When you got fired, turn the power off, man. First thing, just kill the power. Didn't worry about it. He was just frozen in fear, like, what do I do?
I've got this young kid that works with me. He thinks he thinks he's a master. He thinks he's a master mechanic. He does. He's got the skill, but he can't. He doesn't know how to use it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So he tries to fly through everything, and when he's trying to do that, he ends up breaking things. And I'm telling him, I said, man, slow down. I said, I'm not trying to beat a land speed record. I'm not trying to invent the wheel. I want you to take it apart and put it back together without breaking anything. Because any 30-minute job is one broken bolt away from being an 8 to 10 hour ordeal.
Oh, yeah.
Especially up here. We're in salt, we're in rust. I mean, if you are in a rust belt as a mechanic, you are great at extracting things. And I'm trying to teach this kid the patience to extract some things. And it's hard to teach somebody something that's had something drilled in their head of just replace. Oh, you broke a bolt off in the timing cover. Yeah, you broke a bolt off in the timing cover. Replace the timing cover. Well, that's a 15-hour job that customer's not going to pay for because you broke a water pump bolt off. Get it out. Plain and simple.
It sucks. Especially you grow up poor and you break a bolt off. There's no replacing the part. You have no choice. You got to get that bolt out. You're screwed.
Yeah.
I broke a bolt. It's been a while, but I broke a bolt on something on one of my vehicles, and I wasn't thinking because it was a bolt in a housing that held a piece on probably a thermostat cover housing on it. It broke off. As soon as I started turning it, man, it just sheared right off. It was already damaged. So without me thinking, that bolt was not bottomed out. It was just kind of hanging in there, the piece that broke off. And I wasn't thinking about that. I was trying to figure out how we're going to get a drill in there and trying to figure out how to get the angles and working on it. My neighbor comes over and he goes, why don't you just put a pair of pliers on that little piece you stick out? He goes, man, it was tight. He goes, it was tight because it was stuck on and now it's gone. It's probably come right off. Sure enough, you can just turn with your fingers and pull it right back out. I was like, oh, my goodness. But, I was going to start drilling on it and doing all this other crazy stuff. And if I'd have stopped and thought what was going on, there's no pressure on it anymore. There's nothing holding it there. It just comes right out. It's not rusted in place. So
I've got more extractors as a mechanic than I need. I'm not even lying. I go anywhere else and I'll probably never use them again. So you muted yourself.
yeah, it's got a weird cord. That's the problem. I bumped this cord over here where my water bottle sits. I bumped the cord. It does that. That's what caused it. But now I know.
All right, so let's get back to some fish. So I see you got all these tanks behind you. You said you got like 150 containers full of fish.
Yep.
What are you running for filters on some of these tanks?
None. That's the crazy part. There's air going in because killifish jump. So I have to have a really nice tight fitting lid. So almost all my lids are all that, what's it called? Stuff called for the greenhouse.
Double wall polycarbonate?
Yeah, that's almost all my lids are. So it seals it in so much, and the water level is so high that there's barely any air on the top of there. So if you don't have some kind of air coming into the system, you're going to suffocate everything because there's just no air exchange. Eventually, even a larger tank with small fish, eventually you're going to run out of air. So only thing I have coming in is just an air line coming in, and I actually have a lot of them have an air stone at the bottom, but I cut the air line almost all the way through, so the air is coming out. The air stone is just to hold the thing down. I was trying to come up with other ways. I was trying to use rubber bands, put rocks on it, gluing rocks on it, and hold it down. Nothing was working. So I just said, "Hey, I'll just stick an air stone on there." And I don't like air stones because they put a lot of back pressure, so you need a lot more air coming into the system to be wearing it, and they plug eventually. So I don't want the maintenance of screwing around with these air stones, and they don't really provide a big benefit for me because all I'm trying to do is just to add some air to the system. It doesn't take much at all for killifish, so I'm not trying to getting a maximized amount of air oxygenation to the water or anything. So I have like nothing. So all these behind me, all there is just an airline coming in with basically an open airline is all it is. So no filtration at all except for whatever plants are in them, and some of them like this tank right here doesn't like hardly any plants at all except for duckweed at the top. Some of these, look, I've got kind of plants that I've drilled a hole in, and I'll show you a trick. This is a trick that I figured out. You could take a drill through that polycarbonate, and I believe it's a 2-inch hole saw you use through that. And these will fit right in the top of that, and they sit right in the lip. They won't fall in your tank. And if you look, there's small enough slits in here that fish can't get in here and they jump out. So you're still keeping your fish in your tank, and you have a way now that you can stick a plant, any kind of a house plant, pothos, whatever, into the cup, and then all the roots will eventually come out the bottom of this thing, and you can take it out easily. If you want to take the whole thing out, you just take that out. Instead of drilling a small hole, you used to drill a small hole in them and stick the stem in there, the root or whatever, to grow things. But then as soon as it starts growing, you can't ever get that back out without killing the plant. With something like this, you can pull the whole pot out. So this has actually worked really well. I've got all kinds of stuff growing in my tanks. One of the weird plants that I didn't think would grow that's growing pretty good is a bird nest fern. It's called bird nest fern. It's kind of a wider leaf. It doesn't look like a fern, but it's called bird nest fern. That seems to be growing great.
Nice.
So yeah, that's one of the tricks I use. I don't use any filtration. I'm trying to think, do I have any tank that actually, I have one tank that's got a canister filter. It's a 90-gallon aquarium out there, but it's got a side neck turtle, pink belly side neck that's probably 10, 12 inches long, and it lives in there. And of all things, I have corridors at the bottom of it too. So I've got some 2-star corridors and what else? Like a pleco down there at the bottom. Personal in the bottom of that thing, and he doesn't touch those guys. So they're the kind of the cleanup crew in the bottom. And that tank, it doesn't, I don't hardly get any nitrates building up in there or anything. The way I got it set up is about 6 inches of sand on the bottom of it. So you got all that nitrate, you get the anoxic layer at the bottom. And I think that's helping break down some of that nitrates. I can't get a lot of plants except for duckweed duckweed doesn't even grow in that tank very well anymore. But I put rocks in the corner, black river rock in the corners, because the turtles like to go down to the bottom and they'll dig around and all that stuff and just stir everything up and cause you problems. So I put a lot of river rock in the corners and fill the rest of it full of sand. So now when he tries to dig in the corners, he hits rock. He doesn't cause that big mess, or doesn't dig all the way down through to it. So that seems working good. When he was smaller, I had that thing full of plants. It was great, man. It was a beautiful looking tank. But I knew that was only a matter of time before he got big enough, and just him swimming through is going to start tearing the plants up, and that's exactly what happened. So I can't keep cool plants in there. But that's the only tank that I have any kind of real. I guess I do have a couple tanks that have sponge filters on them. But the purpose of those tanks and the sponge filters are so when I set up a new tank, like I set up all these behind me, I immediately filled them full of water and threw fish in them, and went through those tanks and got all that moldy stuff that's in those sponge filters and squeezed it in there. So that's the only reason I really have those, is for seeding other tanks to get things started. So I always turn up tanks and throw fish into them immediately, just as long as I have some kind of moldy material or some other way of getting the bacteria started in there. And of course, I'm talking a 5 or 10 gallon aquarium with a couple small fish in it. So that's totally different than loading up with a bunch of fish. I wouldn't be able to put 20 fish in a tank, do that right off the bat in a 5-gallon aquarium. I'd kill everything.
Absolutely.
It takes a while for that to build up. But as long as you know what you're doing with it and don't go crazy, it's no problem. You can immediately throw fish in the tank. It's not a problem at all.
Tommy wants to know, what's your favorite turtle in the wild?
I don't know. I kind of like alligator snapper turtles. They're pretty cool, prehistoric. They get freaking huge. There's still a lot we're learning about those guys too. So they're one of my favorites.
Turtles do best in nastiest water.
Depends on define nasty. That's where people go sideways. A friend of mine has a big outdoor tanks, and he's got tanks in there with duckweed completely over top, and they're green water. And animal control try to tell him that that water was nasty and polluted and terrible. And we're going, no, you don't understand that all this duckweed on top is putting a layer to keep the sun from baking the water in there. So that's pulling out nutrients out. The green water is not hurting anything in that tank at all. It's doing the same thing. It's providing a little bit of sun protection to keep from overheating. And it was hard to convince them that just because it didn't look like some kind of pristine koi pond, that it wasn't nasty. Even though it doesn't look as nice as a koi pond to a lot of people. It's more natural, but it's still not nasty in a way it's going to hurt anything. Nitrate levels are low. All the waste material is low. There's no ammonia. All that stuff's all gone. And so it's perfectly healthy. Especially you got a lot of fish and stuff swimming around there with it. I mean, if it was really that bad, it killed everything. So
yeah,
nasty.
A lot of people don't get that things can look and be deceiving by looks. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I've got a tank. I have a 75-gallon aquarium that it's a native tank. Well, mostly native. I've got a pickerel that I caught. It's a grass pickerel. It's probably about 9 inches long now, and that has got so much tan in it you can hardly see through it. It's got a lot of valsinaria coming over across too, blocking a lot of the light out, so you can really hard to see in there. But I've got about this much mold in the bottom of that tank, and I've got plecos breeding in there like crazy. But I don't ever vacuum it out or anything. So the plants are pulling it out. I test it every once in a while. Test great. Nothing's wrong with it. All the fish are happy. So, but it has at least that much mold piled up in most of the tank. But whatever, it seems to work fine. So I do suck it out every once in a while, but it starts getting so bad that when the plecos go around, it clouds it up and I can't see what's going on. So it's more like for me than anything else. But I saw that. So you mentioned the fly river turtle. That's an example of a turtle that needs very clean water. You've got to have very healthy, very clean water for that. So if you had nasty water, you'd kill one of those pretty quick. They can't handle that really nasty water.
So do you keep snakes at home as well?
Oh yeah. I cut way down, but I used to have, I can't even tell you, one time probably had 70 snakes or so in a house at least. This room that I'm in now used to be one of my snake rooms. This used to be the non-venomous snake room. And in my garage, I have another room in the garage that's I can lock off from both sides, and the air conditioning and stuff going into that. But that's where I used to keep all my venomous snakes only. So everything now is all, with the exception of a couple snakes, everything is in that room. So I keep all my venomous and non-venomous, but I only keep probably have 15, maybe 20 snakes now, maximum. And I use those for a lot of educational stuff, like going out and doing that training I was talking about. So you got to use different venomous and non-venomous snakes of different sizes. You teach them how to use hooks, and then you teach them how to use tongs, and then hooks and tongs. So each stage, the snakes get bigger. So you always start with the really easy stuff, small, easy, and then you start working your way up. So I have to keep quite a few animals on hand. And things like the events I do, I keep a lot of native stuff. So I really don't have any like the big non-native pythons and cobras and all that stuff. I have very few non-Texas native snakes. One of them is a ball python, and she was the very first snake I ever bought, and I still have her. So she's approaching 30 years old right now. And,
wow.
Yeah. So they're one of the longest lived snakes.
What's the lifespan expectancy of it?
It could be up to, there's some of the records are around 47, 48 years. Those are the records. So right now, if she were to die tomorrow, I'd go, guys, she did good. So but I have no idea how long she's going to last. She could last another decade without a problem.
That's a long time for a pet.
It
becomes
is,
a member at that point.
Yeah,
I mean,
the tortoise I have way outlived me. And he's probably 12 or 13. No, I probably had him that long. I don't know how old he is because we got him. Somebody had lost him somewhere. He was out in some back roads wandering around, so we picked him up, and so that's how I got him. But he was small when I got him. Now he's well over 100 pounds, and he lives in the backyard. He's got a box on the porch that's completely, up way up underneath. He's got a big porch that sticks out, so he's way back in the back. And I have a space heater on top, and I'm about ready to kick that on. But when I kick that on, I got to make sure I'm sitting there with the fire extinguisher because I have no idea what kind of debris is kicked up there. I don't know what's going to happen because I'm sitting there all summer long. But I've never had a problem so far, and I've had him probably 10, 15 years, 10 to 12 years probably.
That's definitely a generational pet right there.
Yep. And I've had to do all kinds of stuff. He's outside, and that heater's the only thing to keep him alive when it's 0 degrees outside. Every once in a while, those really, really bad winters here. And if that heater kicks off, he's going to die that night. So I learned how to do C++ coding. I've got some electronic boards that I actually programmed and have them going to a server somewhere where it'll send me a text. It would put a Twitter out on Twitter. It would set off a local alarm to let me know that the temperature levels were too low or too high. And now on my phone, I had an app, and I could actually adjust the values exactly where I wanted those thresholds to be. Did all that just to kind of save him. I've done all kind of stuff to make sure my pets don't get too hot or too cold. That's one of the things I did. And of course, they got rid of that server, so now I have more of a commercially available solution. That same thing they came up with. But man, I first moved to my first house. We started first getting snakes. The guy that lived there before me was the guy that put in alarm systems. So the whole house is wired up for alarms. He had the best alarm they had. Of course, I was poor, man. We're just first kid and everything. Had some reptiles, so I couldn't afford to have it monitored. And I was trying to find a way to keep my house from overheating. So my friends were going on vacations. They come back and all their animals were dead because the AC died in the middle of summer. So I was like, man, that's not going to happen to me. I'm going to do everything I can to keep that from happening. So I got the idea that in the middle of the hallway, I had a little sensor in there that's a motion detecting sensor. It was annoying because it was always going off. Even though it wasn't a monitor, we turned the alarm system on, but anything would set the damn thing off. So I took it off the wall. Then I realized, hey, I've got an extra sensor sitting here. And all an electronic sensor for these security systems is basically on and off switch. There's just different ways they're triggered on and off. That's all you have to do. So with that, I was like, hey, you know what? I can put a thermostat in there. So now if the temperature of the house gets too hot, the thermostat would try to kick on the AC unit, which makes close contacts. So I could take that as my sensor and feed that into the alarm system. So that's what I did. Didn't have it monitored. I had to go buy online and order the installation manual, not the owner's manual, the installation manual. Told you how to get back in there and completely reprogram everything, including the phone number it dials out. So I put my own personal phone number in there. So now if I'm at work, all of a sudden my phone rings and it's from my house and nobody's home because my wife's working too. I know the alarm's going off basically. So then I can haul ass back home and take care of it. And that happened several times. We got a dog, and for some reason, he liked to go in the backyard and eat that control wire from my AC system. I put fencing around it. I put a conduit. I did put hot sauce on it. I tried all kinds of stuff to keep him from eating that cord. That was the only thing that dog ever ate. And he can have my kids' toys could be all over the floor, his toy mixed in. He would only touch his toy. He would never touch anything else, except for that dang wire in the back of my house. So I've done all kinds of stuff, man, just to try to save things. But, I taught myself a lot of stuff doing that, too.
Yeah, your mic went a little weird.
Oh, is it okay now, or is it back?
No, it's still a little weird. It's a little muffled.
Is that better? Connection.
Maybe. I'm not sure.
Okay.
It was. Yeah, it's a little
closer. I may have scooted back a little bit. This thing's not very good. It's a cheap mic.
$45 mic.
Yeah, this one here was like 20.
Oh, you got the Temu version. I got it.
Yeah.
I can still hear you, but it changed a little bit. Before you were crystal clear. Now it sounds just slightly muffled.
Huh. Hang on.
But
plug it.
I think it might be connected to your earbuds.
Oh, it may have switched over. Let me see. Pop in the settings real quick. Audio. All right, Is that better?
Yeah, sounds a little better. Yes,
A little better. Let's try. What about that?
that's way better.
Okay, we'll keep it there then. Sweet. I don't know. I got a cheap computer too. It was actually given to me because it had a broken screen. So I went online and bought a new screen and replaced the screen on it just to get something that works. So it barely is powerful enough to run everything.
I understand. I had to buy a computer just so I could do this. I'll be honest with you. The one I had before was struggling. So I bought another one, and here we are. Necessity is the mother and father of inventions. Tommy said he forgot to get the crabs from you. You'll have to come your way.
No, yeah, I was going to bring them up to you, but I realized that the way it was going to work out, I was going to meet you up at the nature center. There was no way I was going to keep them cool or not, dying. But we'll get together and do it. No problem. Trust me, there's tons of them in the lake, so there's no shortage. Shouldn't be a problem.
So you said you have about a dozen different species of killifish.
No, I have a dozen that are actually fry of a dozen killifish. I've got a lot more than that, but just currently I'm breeding them, or they're just not breeding out big enough yet, or whatever. So yeah, I've got a lot of different stuff going on, and I've even got blue-eyed rainbow fish fry sitting over here, and I've got what else? Pleco fry, and there was something else I had. It was kind of not a killifish that I'd bred.
I remember I asked you if you could give me a 10-minute course, what would you be? You're like, 10 minutes is not enough time.
No. So if you want to talk about killifish and how to breed them and stuff and how to keep them, man, it's not that difficult. There's two main groups of killifish. The people have heard about one group and they haven't heard about the other, and they assume they're all like the one group. The first group would be the annual killifish. That's what most people hear about. So when you hear killifish, all those live less than a year. You don't want to mess with those. They're hard to keep and stuff like that. Well, they're not necessarily hard to keep, but the annual killifish most of those do live a year, maybe a little less than a year, because of where they're found. They're found in areas that dry up during the summertime. So we're during the dry seasons. There's really not a winter and summer in a lot of these places on the equator. So it'll dry up in the summertime and they die. Their eggs have been deposited in the substrate. So they wait until it rains again. When it rains again, the water comes up, rehydrates the eggs. They'll hatch out almost immediately. Some areas, they call it raining fish, because when it starts raining again, the fish show up. So these tribes of people thought that the rain was bringing the fish in, which it obviously can't. So those are really kind of cool to keep. There are African species like that, and there's even South American species that are annual killifish. So it's not just in one continent. So killifish are found completely all over the world except for Antarctica and Australia. So Australia's version of a killifish would be like a rainbow fish. It's kind of like what takes the same niche up and are very similar in the way they act and the way they do. One of the biggest difference, I think, is how fast the fry grow, even a non-annual killifish. And the rainbow fish fry takes forever to grow. Even these little blue-eyed are not even really rainbow fish. They're pseudomagills. But they just grow so slow. Most of the killifish, not all of them, most of them, they grow fast. The annual killifish grow extremely fast. Because if you think about it, it rained. There's a dry season coming. So they have a short amount of time they're going to be alive. So they need to grow up as fast as they possibly can, get to sexual maturity, make eggs for the next generation before it dries out and they die. So these guys, sometimes it can be, I think the record is like 2 weeks from being the size of an egg to actually being able to reproduce. That's a very rare situation. I think it's the fastest vertebrate there is that can reproduce at the earliest age. So it's super fast. So sometimes it's only a couple months. 2 months old, you've got, they're ready to dropping eggs all over the place. And they constantly breeding and laying eggs. And usually use a bowl full of like peat or sphagnum moss in the bottom, and they'll dough in that bowl and lay their eggs in that substrate. And then you take the substrate, take it out once a week, once every 2 weeks, whenever there's really not really a set time. You pull them out, you put them in a Ziploc bag after you've squished most of the water out. So you've made it kind of like just a damp consistency. You don't want it sopping wet. You shouldn't be able to squeeze water out of it, but you shouldn't be able to make it dry. Be too dry. So it's, and there's a leniency in there. It doesn't have exact. So you seal that up. Depending on what species it is, it might just be a couple months. It depends what temperature you keep it at too. Mostly it's a couple months all the way up to maybe 6 months, 8 months. You just sit those on a shelf somewhere. every once in a while you can check, make sure it's not drying out inside the container, make sure the container wasn't sealed right or something. But just check on them every once in a while. But you do nothing with them for months. And then whenever they start what's called eyed up, so inside the egg, you can actually look inside there. We usually have a little microscope or even a little lens. If you're good eyes, you can see it without that. But you'll see little eyes inside the egg, and you'll see them moving around inside there. So then you'll know this time to wet them. So then you get a small container, put them in the container. Usually within an hour, you'll start seeing some hatch. It might be 24 hours. Generally, you have most of them hatched. You pull all those babies out. You take all the substrate left. You dry it back out again. You store it for another couple weeks. Wet it again. You do this 2, 3, 4 times. And it's kind of an evolutionary setup to the first rain that hits. You don't want all the eggs to hatch, because what if it was only a quarter inch of rain? Just enough to wet everything. Everything hatches out. 2 days later, it dries out and everything's dead and the whole generation's gone. You just extinct the whole population. So they have it set up in stage like that. So some of them will hatch out. Well, they might not make it. They'll die off. Then when it rains again, more will hatch out. So you have multiple opportunities. So hopefully you get a significant rain where they can live. So those are the annuals. Then you have the semi-annual / non-annual fish, the killifish. Now they're more like the fish we're used to, like a rainbow fish and other fish where they're going into mops, or sometimes they go into substrate. But usually they're spawning into some type of spawning mop, which is just a bunch of yarn and a cork. So it's all hanging down like a plant. They go into that, lay eggs. You pull that out. Sometimes I usually pull my eggs if I'm really wanting to breed them every day. I'll go through and I'll pull all the eggs that are in there out. 2 different ways to hatch the eggs out. You can do just like the annual way, where you put them on sphagnum moss or peat moss. But the incubation time is going to be way less. Usually be somewhere around what it'll take in the water, but 2 3 weeks seems to be 2 to 4 weeks seems to be most killifish are going to be hatching out in that way. But you do the same thing. You just watch them, and you start seeing them eyed up. You put them all in the water, they all hatch out. So, but the other way I like to do it is the wet way inside of water. So every day I'll pull eggs, and I'll put them in a mixture of methylene blue, which is my concentration is about 2 to 3 drops per half a gallon of water is my concentration of the methanol blue. And I'll put in a small container, a little Tupperware container, doesn't really matter. Put some water in there, drop my eggs in there. And my rule of thumb is about 5 days. I'll put eggs in that same container where I get about 25 or 30 eggs in there. That's where I stop. Then I'll get a new container. And then I'll just, usually most stuff that I have is about 14 days is what my incubation period is. I'll stick those up on a ledge somewhere, and I have a label on what it is, when it was laid, so I know about the hatch time they should be at. And I have all these little containers lined all up on my shelf, and I'll go through those when it's about time and start looking at the eggs and see if I see any hatching out. A lot of them will hatch out, and they're free swimming immediately. You can feed them. They'll eat as soon as they come out of the egg. A few species will have a egg sac and sit on the bottom and kind of wait a day or two before they're really up and moving around before you can feed them. So then after that, it depends on what it is, what you feed it. Most of them can eat baby brine shrimp right off the bat. They'll also eat a lot of the processed foods. In fact, I'm experimenting with this. Have you ever seen the aquarium co-ops, this magic nano food?
Yeah.
I thought, hey, it looked promising. And I thought, I'll come and try it. So I've been trying it this for the last couple of days. So this is brand new to me. But everything seems to really enjoy it. And it sinks very slowly in the water column, which you want for those little baby fry. And if you got any kind of current at all, it brings itself back up into the water column sometimes too. So right now it seems to be working pretty well. I'm enjoying it. We'll see if I run into any problems. I don't know if it's going to be able to grow the fish as fast or whatever, but that's, and now for my fry, I have my own magic formula. I'll start with this. This is how I buy the bug bites in the big tubs.
Good
I've
Lord.
burned through so much of it. Yeah. That takes me about 6 months of food right there. I'll take that and I will run it through. I don't have it in here, but I've got a what do you call it? A pepper grinder that I'll put that in the pepper grinder, and I'll mix in. I don't have one of those either here, but I'll mix in what's called decapsulated brine shrimp. I think that's the thing that people are overlooking a lot. That decapsulated brine shrimp is basically the brine shrimp before they hatch out. All the stuff is in there, man, and they just take away the cover of that, and you're feeding it straight to the fish. So the fish, the brine shrimp haven't had a chance to hatch out and use up any of the energy or any of the nutrients in their yolks or whatever in there. So you're giving them 100% of everything that's in that food. So I'm mixing some of that with ground up bug bites, and I'll feed them that. And I'll usually, this is what I've started using, one of these to feed, because there's a tube that goes all the way down to the bottom. You can kind of see it in there. But when you squeeze it, it pulls the powder out through and shoots it out. Because I have a grow out system that I've made. It's kind of like, what do you call those, shoe boxes that are 3 high. Well, I realized that when I got so high, I couldn't get a, one of these. Here we go. You know, just the ketchup bottle type of thing. I made the hole a little bigger. And I was just taking and squirting it in like this. But it was so high, I couldn't get in another hole. So I had to switch over to something like this. And I like this a lot better. Just like I take and squirt.
I started making my own food. I got so many fish breeding, man. I have to. It's god awful expensive. So yeah. I'm gonna make a video on it soon while I do it and put it out. But I made some the other day, and I swear these little guys are growing like weeds on it. I mean,
they're. You keep cichlids? Are you breeding cichlids primarily?
Yeah, Severums, electric blue acara, natural blue acara, convicts, Mbona, all different species. I have some other. They're hybrid. They're supposed to be a starry night cichlid, something else. Greetings from the laundromat. It's my wife. But, you know, they all require different food, basically. I mean, they don't, but they do, if you think about it. They're from different parts of the world, like African cichlids, and then, you know, like your electric blue, they're from different parts. Technically. Even though they're from a fish farm in Florida, technically. So that's what people don't understand. Your fish isn't in the wild. You didn't catch it wild. You bought it at PetSmart. You don't need to keep the water parameters as if it's Lake Malawi or the Amazon. You need to keep it at the same as the tank it came out of in Florida at the fish farm or wherever the fish farm was. That's what people.
On the same token, though, that they haven't been bred long enough to bred out the nutritional needs out of their DNA or what they need anyhow. So you still kind of have to get them.
The nutritional isn't there. Correct. You got to learn the difference between, you know, carnivore, omnivore, and all that happy stuff, herbivores. You got to learn the difference in that when it comes to these fish. Green water, however, is amazing. I tell my wife this all the time. I have this little tank behind me right here. This little guy. It's green. I got algae growing on it. One day it's green. You come down the next day, it's picked completely clean. I said, they're eating it. Even though I'm feeding them 2-3 times a day, they're eating it still. I said, it's good. Leave it alone. She's like, no, it needs to be clean. I said, don't clean it. I'm going to yell at you if you clean it. Just leave it. They're cleaning it for me. I don't have to do it.
Now, a lot of people consider dirty is not dirty. It's useful. In fact, my shoe boxes that I use, I never clean those shoe boxes. Whenever the fish grow up and I move them out, I never, ever wipe that down. I would never do that because that it's got a nice beneficial bacteria. If it's got algae growing in there, all that is, man, super good for the next set of fry coming in. Because the way I have it set up is I have a big container underneath that pumps up water to each individual shoebox and then overflows back into the bigger container. So it's all flow through system. So if the little tubing somehow gets plugged up or the dog comes in here and knocks it off, which has flooded my room before, they've come in here and their tail or something's knocked it off onto the floor and has pumped all the water out. Those containers now are not getting water coming through them anymore. And if I don't catch that they're not going in there, I'm shooting food in there for a couple of days. And if I don't have any bacteria or anything to break that down, I'm going to kill everything in that tank. So it's kind of the safety net. And I have snails in every single tank. I will not have a fry container without snails in it. I think that's absolutely critical. I don't care what kind of snail it is. You throw a snail in there, at least 1 or 2, just to help break that anything uneaten down. It's critical. You can keep stuff going way longer by throwing a couple snails in there. So,
yeah, I like snails. I used to not like them. I used to think, oh man, I got snails. My tank is disgusting. And I got there. I'm like, no, it's not. I'm overfeeding. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, if you're overfeeding, so if you're trying to breed, yeah, I'm overfeeding like crazy. So some of my tanks are full of snails because I'm overbreeding, and I know what I'm doing. So what I do now is if I have a spawning mop in there and I pull the mop out, a lot of times the snails will be in the spawning mop. I've got a couple dogs, especially the white lab loves to come in here. I call them crunchies. I say, hey, what's a crunchy? She comes running in here, so I'll drop some on the floor below there, and she just sucks up all the crunchies. A little extra calcium.
Oh,
So I don't have
yeah,
to clean the floor up, man.
absolutely.
So
My wife is not a fan of this tank at all, but the babies are growing perfect. I mean,
yeah, that's what's important.
I just
There's a
resealed
difference
their
between
new
a
tank.
show tank. There's a difference between a show tank and a breeding tank. There's a big difference. So none of my tanks in this room are considered show tanks. Most people will be appalled by just they're not, the bottom's moldy and all that stuff. But crazy enough, I don't hardly have any algae on my tanks. It doesn't grow. I don't understand why. I don't clean anything. These tanks behind me have been up for probably 2 years now. I've never cleaned algae off of them ever once, and they're completely clear. I don't know why they never grew algae. No diatoms, nothing. It just blew me away. I was like, why aren't these algaeing up? I thought I wasn't getting enough, getting a turnover in my cycle, because usually I'll see algae growing and hey, your cycle's good. I never got that. It's kind of weird.
This is the only tank I really focus on for looking nice because it's always on camera. You know what I mean? Every time I'm here, it's on camera. And I mean, this tank is so overstocked, it's not funny. I got a 14-inch Oscar, the 10-inch Oscar in here. There's like 3 parrots, 7 Severums, 7 Geos, 2 threadfin Acara, Pleco, Siamese algae eaters. I mean, it's packed. There's 4 canister filters on it, but that's the only one I really just I focus on to look nice because it's right here. You see it. You can see this little guy, but not like you do that one. You used to be able to see my Oscar tanks, who right now she is staring a hole in me, wondering why I'm not feeding her, but she'll be all right. Today is her fasting day. But yeah, I mean,
probably have a lot of filtration on that tank. That tank that big, you're not going to be able to do what I do with just a couple of air stones or something going in there.
It's got
too much bio load.
It's got an FX6, a Marine Land 360 cannon, 2 cannon. There's 4 canister filters on it total.
Yeah, and that's what you need. So,
yeah, I got a sump I'm going to put on it. That's the next thing. It's going to be sumped. It is what it is. It needs it.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be able to handle it better than the 4 canister filters. And I could use the 4 canister filters on other tanks.
Sure.
I would truly like to put the FX6 on my goldfish pond. That way I'd have both my FX6 on it. I have a 300-gallon goldfish pond. I mean, I have a that's a good topic. I got a Sun 304. Cheapest filter you can buy for a canister filter. And I'm going to be honest with you, that thing will keep that 300-gallon pond, just it by itself, will keep it crystal clear.
Awesome.
Everybody talks so much hate and, they hate them, they leak, they this, they that. If you got one that works, I promise you'll love that filter. I've got several of them. Got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 5 of them running right now.
I'm pretty sure it's the brand I use on my 90-gallon with the turtle in it.
I think they're like $129. And I mean, they put in some serious work. I mean, like the media they give you is shit. Yeah, I'm not even gonna lie, it's shit. I change that right. I'll throw it out and put my own in it. I use a lot of lava rock. I'll use the bio ring, lava rock, and sponges. I have no issues. No issues. Yep. Like I took I took the bio balls out of everything I have here. All those plastic balls, I took them all out. They've all been replaced with lava rock. I mean, I've got 1 canister filter here I need to clean. I really don't want to because I know it's going to be disgusting. Because it hasn't been cleaned in a while, and I'm not looking forward to it. But I put lava rock in 2 chambers of the 4. It's got the rings, and 1 chamber is completely packed. It's like this deep, full of nothing but sponge. And I know when I clean it, it's going to be. I'm probably gonna yak in the sink when I do it.
Yeah, I take mine outside, man. Everything goes outside. Take the hose and hose everything and clean it that way. I wouldn't do it in the sink. Not here.
I am. So
she wants the winter time. You may not have a choice.
I don't have anything outside right at the moment. I brought mine in last year. Never put up one outside. I was going to and changed my mind. I am tiny because my focus is on my guests. I got to focus on that gentleman because he is the important one, not me. I'm just here asking questions and talking.
And so setting up a tanks like this one, you see there's that bowl in there. Those are fun little Panchex glares, not to be confused with the blue glares, big killifish. These are non-annuals, but they lay their eggs in substrate. So I have a little bit of peat moss in the bottom of that thing, and they'll go in there and dive and lay their eggs in there. Then I'll pull them out, and they have a long, I think it's 6 to 8 months period that I've got to let them dry. So there's a different kind of fish.
So I want to show you something. I want your opinion on it. I was thinking about buying these for dabbling my toes into killifish.
Yeah, that's gonna be a hit or miss. If you're wanting eggs, there's way better ways to get eggs. I would get onto Facebook, go to the Killifish Lounge, go into some of their even better, go to what's that thing called? Is it Bang or what the heck is that app called? Band. Go into Band because you can sell stuff on Band. You can't sell stuff on Facebook. So if you go to the Facebook, go to the Killifish Lounge, go to their chat rooms, you got to be subtle when you word it because they are very strict. They don't want to get their channel, the thing deleted. So they're not going to let you ask for buying stuff. You're saying, hey, I was looking at buying some of these online or whatever, and say, hey, anybody got something or anybody breeding this species of fish? That's a good species to start with. It's a very good species, but you're going to be much better off getting them off an individual. It's not going to, you have no idea how long it's been sitting around. You don't even really know if there's anything in there. There's some accusations that you may not know what species you're getting. Some people have gotten the wrong species. So I would highly recommend talking to the AKA, which is the Killifish Lounge is the official AKA Facebook group. They didn't want to have an official one for weird reasons, but so that's where everybody goes to talk. So you go in there and ask people around if anybody's got some Nothiobranchius eggs. You're going to find somebody give you some or sell you some. I only have one pair of stuff growing right now, and I don't really have enough eggs to go around. I'd happy to give you some. I just don't have any.
We'll have to talk about that at a later date. I'm going to be in Texas next year.
Yeah, I heard you say something about Aquashella.
Me and a few individuals are going to invade Aquashella from the north, over here to northeast.
I looked it up. I couldn't find a date. If they put a date.
Not yet.
Okay, I can tell you when it's going to be because every year they do this for the last 3 years. They do it on the AKA's national convention, which will be here in Texas too. So it'll be on June. If they hold true, it'll be on June 14th and 15th. It's Father's Day weekend. That's when the AKA, the American Library Association, the Beta Congress, and there's a couple of groups that are going to be all having a big giant, expo. Which I think, man, I wouldn't go. I went to the Aquashell last year and was completely unimpressed. It was a bunch of vendors, not vendors, big vendors, showing off their new stuff. It was kind of neat. It was neat to meet people, say hi to vibes and stuff. So, hang out with them for a little bit, hang out with other people, But other than that, it was kind of lame. I didn't.
We're going to invade Tommy. That's basically it.
Okay, yeah, go for friends. But you guys ever go out and do any wild collecting?
No, not here. There ain't nothing wild here, honestly. Maybe some catfish or some bluegill, some sunfish.
No. Oh, you're wrong, man. You're missing the mark, dude.
In Ohio?
Fish. Yes. Darters. You got some amazing, beautiful darters. You've got some great looking shiners. You need to do a little research, find out what's in your area. What's a little smaller stream fish, and do some collecting. If you're interested, you guys come down here, man. We could probably set something up for one of the evenings and run over to a cool place I know. We go catch bluefin killifish. You got the golden top minnows, black stripe top minnows. What else we got over there?
I have to figure out how to get them home.
You don't have to take them home if you don't want to. Just go check them out, photograph them, and enjoy them. It's not all about taking them home.
If I'm catching them, I'm bringing them home.
I understand. You will need a hunting license, but it's not that big a deal. and it's in a wildlife management area. Man, it's like it reminds you more of Florida if we go where I'm thinking of going, because it's got these big ponds of huge lotus leaves on it, and it's just absolutely spectacular. I would try to get a Tommy out there, and we would have went out there, but they closed it down for hunting season because they do duck hunting out there. There's so many ponds and everything. Plains is loaded with waterfowl. So they closed it down. Then we were going to go to another place that I had grasslands, but it's hunting season, and it's an open hunting area. I didn't want to put anybody at risk, including myself. So we went to a nature center instead. But there's plenty of places around here we can collect and find some just absolutely amazing stuff. Some of those darters, man, are just stunning. It'll blow you away.
I had to just take a peek over here at my Midas cichlid. He was he decided to float sideways at the top.
That'll scare you, won't it?
Yeah. Man, that is the most aggressive fish I have. I put out a video last week. Everybody's like, oh, that fish loves you, blah, blah, blah. Because every time I walk over by it, it comes straight to the glass when I'm there. My wife walks over there, it swims away. I walk over, it swims to me. That fish don't want nothing to do but mess me up. I mean, literally, it'll strike the glass at me.
Jeez.
I'm like, yeah, this fish don't like me. This fish wants to mess me up.
What'd you do to that thing?
Nothing. I went to all right, so Noisy Aquatics. Have you heard of him? His name's Sean.
I've heard the name, yes. But
he met me in Marblehead, Ohio.
Okay.
He's from Michigan. We met an hour away from each of us. We had lunch. We went into a fish store. Well, every time we walked by this tank, this fish came to me. Swam to the front of the glass, only to me. He walk over there, it'd swim away. I walk over, it'd swim up to me. I'm like, well, damn, the fish likes me. I walked around, thought about it, was filming in this fish store. Thought about it. I'm like, I'll buy it. I'll take it home, depending on how much it is. So I ended up getting it for $45, which isn't terrible for that big ass Midas. And I brought it home, and here we are. I had it in a 40. That's a good question. Let me find out.
Years or months?
It's been months.
Okay.
Definitely months. I was going to say before I went to Canada. September.
Okay. So you're coming up to it. Yeah, it's only a month or two. Yeah, 4 months.
Yeah, so I had it in a 40 breeder upstairs, and it was just moping and laid in the corner. My plan the entire time was I just wanted to put it in there to make sure it was good. I'll see it every morning. I'm right there. It's there when I come out of the bathroom. I can literally see this tank. And it was just over in the corner. Didn't do nothing. So I moved some fish down here around. I ended up putting my natural blue Acara and my Walrus in my 125. And I'm like, all right, cool. I got this 75 open. I'm going to bring it down here. I go up there with a net. Literally open the tank lid, put the net in. It swam into the net. I bring it down here. I put it in that tank, and it's been a completely different fish. It's a she. Male. I thought it was a male, but it's actually a she. She is angry. I got one of those sponges used to clean the glass. It was ripping chunks out of it.
Jeez.
I'm like, man, allow me not to put my hand in there.
Yeah, I'll stick to my small fish.
I have some small fish.
The pickerel's the one that'll bite me. If I stick my finger in there, it'll nail my fingers because it's looking for food. It's just hungry all the time. But luckily, right now, it doesn't have very big teeth. It doesn't do any damage. Eventually, it's going to put holes in me. So that's my call. If I have any calls, anything with bent spines or anything that really needs to be put down, I just throw it in that tank and it's gone instantly.
Yeah, I'll show you her.
Oh, cool.
It's a big girl.
Yeah. Can't really tell size in the video.
About 8-9 inches, 10 maybe at the max.
Very cool. Pretty fish.
Very. That's what drawed it to me was the color, and it was washed out when I got it. It really was. It looked like a creamsicle. when I first seen it. It wasn't very bright. It was real dull orange. The white was whiter than the orange. And now this fish is bright and colorful and enjoying itself. It's also in a bigger tank, an over-filtrated tank at that. It took a chunk out of the sponge filter that's in there too. Been very much big fan of that. I named it Noisy, so it's a female Noisy and not a male Noisy. I named it after him because he was there with me.
Funny.
We come outside with this big container, right? It's on a cart. We're rolling it down the ramp to my van. And my wife is like, oh, no. I'm like, oh, yeah. I bought a fish. Then the damn container leaked on the way home.
Oh, man.
She made it. But yeah, it's I think my favorite fish in my fish room are my natural blue Acara. I mean, a lot of people don't. Man, everybody loves the electric blue, and I love the electric blue. It's my favorite fish. But everybody's like, oh, the electric blue is the best ones. Well, man, you've got the yellow banded Acara, you got the black Acara, you got the electric blue Acara, and then you have the natural Acara, natural blue Acara. There's more of them out there. There's the smiling Acara. See, now I sound like a nerd. I know all these Acara because I'm a fan of those fish. I've got some more coming. I don't have room for them, but they're coming. They will be put in another tank so they can sit there and quarantine themselves before they enter my system with my fish because mine are healthy. And then I was doing my live stream the other night on there, and there was actually I could hear some people's buttholes tighten when I grabbed cups full of salt and chucked them in the tank. Like I use Morton's water crystal softers.
Yeah, okay.
It's like the purest form of salt you can get. Chuck it in there, does what it does. Those fish are prone to ick. They're really prone to ick. And I'm like, well, I think they can handle it because I've been treating them like that their entire life. My Walroo, on the other hand, have never had salt. So I didn't know how they would react to it, but they loved it. So they're all doing.
Yeah, those fish from really hard water like that, they seem to be all right with high salt content.
Yeah,
it's just fine. Yeah.
I was when I first got the natural blue Acara, they were covered in ick. I was like, man, I'm going to lose these fish. I've wanted these fish. I've waited for these fish. So I took my 75 and I drained it down to, I don't know, it's probably like 25 gallons. And I literally took a cup. Well, that's all of a cup. And I dropped 3 full cups in there. And I let them swim in it for about 35 minutes, dude.
Okay. Yeah. I thought you'd leave them like that. I was like, holy crap.
Yeah, let them swim in it for 35 minutes. They started acting goofy. I started pumping water in.
Yeah.
And I'm not shitting you. The next day, the ick was gone. They were almost completely clear. I'm like, cool. Yes. And they've been clear ever since. I didn't lose not one single fish. I didn't crank the heat up. I didn't use, everybody's like, oh, use methylene blue and use this. I'm not using ICX. I'm using what works for me.
Stick with what works, man. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I like about this hobby too. Everybody does their own thing. As long as it works, it's not wrong.
No.
It's not causing any harm. What does it matter how you do it different than I do it?
Correct. Just because the big channels did it, don't mean you got to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. Your way worked great. You knew what you were doing. You knew rush the fish. You didn't walk away. Leave them for an hour and come back. Oh crap, they're all dead. But you kept an eye on them. You knew what to look for. So you see signs of distress, you got them out. That's not wrong with that at all, man. It's awesome.
The same thing with
just jack the temperature up, but you have to have fish that can handle that temperature too. It doesn't always. It's not always going to work with everything. Some things can't handle high temps.
No, definitely not.
And it takes time.
That is a fact. I lost a whole tank of Walroo, man. They were $17 a piece. I lost 12 of them.
Man.
I was they presented what looked like ick. I did the normal ick treatment. Mm-hmm. I increased the heat and I added super ICX. I lost every one of them within 24 hours.
Could have been velvet. That looks
exactly what it was. The treatment for ick speeds up velvet. After research,
thing with the killifish, especially the annual killies, the Nothrobranchius are very susceptible to velvet. They like the harder water. So as long as you keep your pH way up and you put the salt in it, like you were talking about, that helps a lot too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tommy, get rid of some of those fish, man. We'll get you some cool natives.
Get some cool natives. Absolutely. Oh, dude.
Long-eared sunfish, man. I got a spot. They're stunners, man. They're just incredibly looking.
You are definitely that man's hero, let me tell you.
I know. He talks me up. Hopefully I live up to that expectations.
Yeah. But yeah, I've seen a lot of people talk about how they treat ick and how they'll never use anything other than heat. And then they turn around, you see them on a video, and what are they using? They're using chemicals, or they're using salt. Things they said they would never use, they use. It's like, why bullshit? It's just do what you got to do to make sure your fish is healthy. That's the ultimate end goal. I've dealt with sick fish. I had a you know what a red tiger moto is?
Nope, I don't.
It's a cichlid. It's an ugly cichlid, but it's a cichlid. Okay. Actually ended up with them. I got 2 of them, and the whole entire tank of natural blue acara that I bought. Somehow they got mistaken for a natural blue acara. Well, I got them out of that tank. I put them in another tank. Well, while they were in that tank, they developed the ick along with the natural blues. I can't treat them the same way I can the natural blues. I was, looking at how they're, what they are and how they work. So I did the conventional method. I'm like, you know what? Screw this. It's not working. These fish are just more and more ick building up on them. Mm-hmm. So I turned the temp back down to normal. I gradually dropped it down. They were in a 10-gallon tank, so it wasn't hard to get the temp to come down. Do a water change and the temp's down. I did it the exact same way I did those. Next day, gone. I'm like, shit, I should have just did that from the jump and it'd have been fine. Just because
Salt is a magical thing. Salt works with a lot of stuff. It is.
Yeah. I would love to debate that with somebody when they tell me that salt's going to kill my fish, especially my plecos, because I have 2 plecos in this tank that took it as well. Oh, plecos can't take salt. Plecos can live out of water for 45 minutes, for God's sake. They can take.
Yeah.
They're tough.
Yeah. Hey, mountain fish. What kind of killifish would you want?
I want them all.
Hey, I'm trying. Even with 150 tanks, you run out quick.
Brother, I'm not far behind you on tanks. That's no joke.
Yeah. Doesn't take long, does it?
I'm at 60, 62.
Yeah.
I mean, majority of the big tanks are in this room. So I have this room here. I have the other side of the room. It's split in half. It's half my other half of my basement. I've got tanks in my breezeway. I've got tanks in my dining room, tanks in my living room, tanks in my front room. I've got tanks all over this bitch.
Oh, yeah.
I've got one sitting on the floor over here, one sitting over here, a little one sitting down here.
My wife's my instigator. Yeah, so okay, I've got enough tanks. That's all I want to take care of. And she's like, another rack would fit right there. I go, no, I can't do that. Next thing you know, she got in my head. Next thing you know, here's a racks up, and I've got tanks on it.
My wife has told me so many times, no more fish tanks. I'll go to work. I'll come home. She's like, hey, there's something for you in the back of the van. I go out there and open it up. She went to Petco. She got me a 75-gallon tank. But she told me no more tanks.
Right, yeah.
She says, people are going to think we have a problem. I don't have a problem. It's either I do this, I buy an expensive car and build it, or I get into drugs, and the other 2 options just don't work. I'll take the fish. It's fun. I enjoy them. Yeah. They keep me calm. They keep me from being a complete raging idiot most of the time. And granted, I could be
if you're trying to breed like I am, it can be demanding because I've got to feed them minimum twice a day. So I get up first thing in the morning, feeding everything before I go to work. As soon as I come home from work, I'm feeding everything, pulling eggs and moving stuff. It takes a lot of time, a lot more time than I thought it was going to take.
Same here.
But it's enjoyable time.
Yeah. And speaking of your favorite food,
bug bites, yeah, those, man, they work great. And I like it for my killies because they're typical insect eaters in the wild. Yeah. So you're feeding them insects. It's like it's the right diet for them. All the other stuff is all kind of, cornmeal and all that stuff in there. Going, man, it's not really what they're eating in the wild. I mean, they're not.
It's full of fillers.
Not mess with it. Yeah. But I think that's one of the best foods out there for what I feed. So so I mix it with the decapsulated brine shrimp. I think is a really big help. So what I'll do too for live foods, all my stuff like my new fry, I'll make a mixture of baby brine shrimp, micro worms, and I'll put some decapsulated brine shrimp into my mix, and then I'll suck that out and walk around with a eyedropper basically, and shoot it into each tank. And I have everything labeled how many eggs were there, so I have an idea how many fry are probably in that tanks, in the shoe boxes, so I can just walk around real quick. And because I got 3 of these, each one of them has 22 shoe boxes, so I have 3 times 22. What is that? 3 times 2 is 6, like 66. That's all right. 20, 40, 60. Yeah, it is too. No, I have 10, not 20. There's 10. That's why. 60 was too many. So I have 10 of 12. I have a dozen shoe boxes, and I have 3. So every morning, because that's how many the fry tanks I've got, small fry. And then you've got the bigger fry tanks. And so I can walk around. It takes me about 30. I could do it in about 35 minutes. I can feed everything in the morning.
I can feed.
It's just to feed fast. Dry foods.
I can feed every fish in my house, I think, under 20 minutes.
Of course, I'm not feeding them that fast all the time because I'm, in the evenings, usually I'm taking a lot more time. I'm thawing out brine shrimp and what else? Bloodworms. And I found some of the what do you call it? Aphyosemians australes and some of the other Opsimians, you have to feed them bloodworms. And if you don't feed them bloodworms, they're not getting yourself selenium, or I think it's selenium or something like that. They're not getting their diet, and they just don't want to produce eggs, and they won't drop eggs. So when I started feeding them bloodworms, it seems like that kicks them off, and I started getting lots of eggs. So
I'm still here. I just heard a noise over here that I'm not used to hearing.
no problem. I was just going to scroll through the chat and see if I got a response to what kind of killifish. No, we're going to take the plecos. Nope, I didn't get an answer to that one. But for beginners, if you're going to do an annual beginning fish, the ones you were showing, the Lithobranchius, what were those? Oh man, I can see the image of them. They come in blue and they come in red. There's 2 different color phases of them. Why did I go brain dead? But if you look up Lithobranchius guntheri, those have got to be the prettiest. Richovii, though. Yeah. Richovii and guntheri. Both of those are absolutely stunning killifish. It doesn't get any better. They're probably one of the prettiest killifish, or fish period, freshwater fish. They're just, man, they're awesome. And they get inch and a half longer, so they get decent size. They just get the orange color with the black margins on the rear of the fin with lots of pattern in the oranges on solid orange fish. Man, it's just, they are stunning. One of my favorite fish, period. But my wife had some of those we got at an auction, and they've slowly died off because, they don't live forever. She thought she was going to get into breeding them, and really decided that she didn't realize. I tried to tell her, but she didn't realize what I was trying to tell her, that these were the annuals, and you're going to have to let the eggs sit for months and to wait for fry to even pop up. She's wanting something a little bit quicker than that. So I think maybe something like a live bear would probably be more something she would be happier with. Get the instant gratification, just boom, have babies, instead of waiting 6 to 8 months for babies.
What's up, Mexicali? Welcome, Discus North.
Well, hello.
Flatbed, I forgot to say hi to you. Welcome, Flatbed. I'd like to get into some smaller fish, but there's always a but. I've got to think of the way I want to do my fish room, because I'm currently in the middle of redoing most of it. I got moves that are going. It's going to happen. I know I've said it. I haven't got a lot of it into action yet because I've been kind of busy. I work a full-time job. I'm a husband. I have other things to do other than film YouTube videos. I hate to say it.
Yeah.
I got to take care of these guys, water changes, things of that nature. So I don't know. I definitely don't want feeder fish, man. Not a chance in hell I want feeder fish. I got a whole tank of feeder fish if I want feeder fish. I got convicts that breed like rabbits. So
I thought about breeding convicts for feeders. I thought, man, that might be a way to go. But
it's not hard.
Do that. Yeah, I just didn't want to.
Throw 2 of them in there and they'll let them have at it. I got a tank down here. They're in a 40 breeder. I swear I don't touch the tank. I change the water in it once a month. It's over filtrated like crazy. You know what I mean? So once a month I change it. There's probably 200 convicts in it.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Man, I got
recently. Red Honduran mix.
Say again?
Honduran red points. Sorry. Okay. Mixed with convict. So they're actually decent looking fish. So
at least they're good looking. But recently the AKA, somebody imported some new and rare fish. And they basically they set up, everybody wants them, they're going to sell them off. But they were going to go by point system for if you put fish into the shows and you get points and stuff for certain rankings and things, and they were going to, people that had a higher points would get, if there was enough to go around, they would use that as how they were going to disperse some of these fish. I ended up getting some of the new and rare stuff, and one of the most rare thing on the list I got a trio of. Well, they're still young, still growing out, and I contacted a lot, making sure that I actually got a male because he wasn't sure, and he packed them up. I said, oh yeah, I definitely got a male. And as they're growing up bigger and bigger, I'm starting to realize I definitely have 2 male now, because it caught my attention as I walked by the cage, the tank. I mean, I saw some sparring. I was like, what the heck? And I realized, there's 2 males in there. And I'm looking at the third fish, and I'm going like, I'm not convinced right now that that's a female. So I may have ended up getting 3 males, and that's going to suck. It's like, man, I want to breed those things and disperse them out there. But if I get 3 males, it's going to kind of blow. So I have to go back and the person I got them off of and see if anyone else has the opposite problem. If they didn't get a male, and maybe we could do some swapping and chew things up, and so everybody gets pairs, because everybody wants to get those going into the hobby more. They're not spectacularly beautiful. They're pretty fish, but they're not one of the ones that are just like eye dropping, jaw dropping, just like, wow, this is incredible. But still, they're all good fish. They're all pretty.
Mexicali wants to know what they are.
Let me see here. I haven't memorized it. They're all scientific names of most of this stuff, but it's Anema panchex, Malzeni. They're a cool fish because they are kind of an intermediate between 2 different groups of killifish. They're kind of that intermediate zone where they're transitioning from one form to another, or branched off, and these are kind of like the point before the two groups branched off. So they're kind of an older species of killifish than a lot of the other stuff is. But they only import in a few of them, and so we'll I can see if I can get you the spelling of that. The Nima panchex is NIMBAPNCHAX, and then it's MAESANI, and the location is LOLA, Lola. Do I prefer panchex or epiplates? I like the epiplates better a little bit. I had some panchex and didn't really have too much luck, but panchex is one of the groups that these are kind of a cousin to, or the pre. What do you call that when there's like before the split? So one way went to panchex, and the other way I think went to, I can't remember off the top of my head. Actually, I have it here. And actually, they changed names at one point. They weren't epiplates. At least I don't have it written down here. They've changed names several times because they didn't know where to stick them, because they're kind of that weird species. Can you mix the males with other strains? If you're talking to me, you want to try to keep everything true. But as long as if you're doing mixing things like that, as long as you're honest when you sell any kind of fry, let everybody know exactly what they are. I don't see the harm in it. There's a lot of purists out there that do not want you mixing them no matter what, anything together. And as long as males aren't too bad when you mix the males with each other, as long as you can tell the difference between the strains, so you can pull them back out and put them with the females to breed. But the females tend to look very similar in a lot of different species. So mixing females usually is a problem. if you stick some of the females together from like say Sheeli and a fun little Pancheck Sheeli and fun little Pancheck's Gardener Eye, you mix those females together and you're gonna have a hard time telling them apart if you ever tell them apart. So you wouldn't want to do that really because it's two different species. But if you're stuck and only have the rare males, well, the problem is there's only one species. There's not like a different strains of those. There's just one species. There's no strains. So if I don't have, I would have to mix up like a completely different species, and you wouldn't want to do that at all. That's making a hybrid, and it's pointless then. You're not really keeping any of the rare part. What makes it rare? So you wouldn't want to do that. So you can still something out in those males and push comes to show. Well, no, because there's nothing else to mix them with. You can make it hybrids at that point. Now, if you had different strains, and this actually happens in the blue galares. A lot of times, some of the strains over time will become infertile, or they just drops off. The fertility drops off drastically. So sometimes they'll take that and mix it with another strain, but you're still talking about the same species of fish. It's a slightly different strain or different coloration or a different locale, but it's the same species. So you're not mixing species. You're not making a hybrid technically, but you're just mixing up some of the genetics to kind of get the fertility back. And as long as you're honest about doing that and everybody knowing they're buying it, you're not calling it one strain or the other when you've mixed it together, then I don't see any problem at all. That's kind of keeping things going. You have to, or you lose both strains sometimes. So mixing species in the killifish world, that's kind of taboo. They really don't like that at all. You get yourself, blacklisted if you start doing a lot of that stuff. And I think if you're doing it, you're keeping stuff at your house, you're going to make some hybrids or put them together and they breed, and you're just keeping them for you. What does it matter? It's not hurting anything. Where I think it's a problem is whenever you're trying to market them or sell them off as something that they're not. As long as you're being honest, I think you're good. So I like eating.
I get the manic thing. That was me last night.
Oh yeah.
I had hypersensitivity to sound, man. Like I was telling you, it sounded like my old lady was screaming in my ear, and she was talking normal. I mean, it was messing with me big time. I want to do something that I don't know if I should do or not. I know people have done it. I want to try and get starters. I want my electric blue car, or not my electric blue, my natural blue cars. I want them to breed, which isn't hard to do. I know how to do it. I've got them set up to where they should, and it shouldn't be an issue. But I want to try to cross those and the electric blues together. I know it can be done. I've seen it done. The babies actually look pretty cool when they grow up. So,
aren't they the same species?
Same, yeah. One's electric blue and one's just standard blue.
Yeah, so it shouldn't be a problem at all. It
shouldn't be an issue at all.
Nah, it should be just easy as breeding the straight strains.
It's going to be also you can breed the banded Acaro with it, the yellow banded Acaro, and you can breed the black Acaro together as well. They can all four breed. They can crossbreed. I'd like to try it, see what I get. I know that's not the purest thing. I'm not trying to go for purist. I have pures. You want pure ones? I have them.
Like I said, as long as you're honest about what you got, I don't see a problem with it.
Yeah.
Somebody doesn't want it, don't buy it. It's simple as that. As long as someone's honest, I don't care. I don't care what you do. Especially in your own house.
Yeah, I have some. I've got some hybrid fish. Like I said, it's supposed to be star sapphire and something else. I don't know what the hell they are. They're beautiful. They're solid blue. The males are solid blue, and they got like this, fire orange red stripe going across their dorsal fin. I mean, they're gorgeous. They look like a hap, but they're smaller than a hap. They look slightly like an Mbuna, but they're bigger than an Mbuna. So they're about the size of maybe a peacock. I mean, they're beautiful fish.
Oh, yeah. Some of the cichlids are great. I just never got into cichlids. I guess that started with cichlids a long time ago, but I just never got the cichlid bug. I think they're pretty, but it's just not for me.
I started with African cichlids, so I had my net, your normal community tank, your guppies, mollies, platies. I had those. The next one I got were electric yellow and bonus, or labdichromis. Well, yellow labdichromis is the actual technical name. I got those. I threw in a couple of OB peacocks. I mean, I had a beautiful 125 at one point in time. There was like 60 fish in it. And everybody's like, "Oh, you got too many fish in there." I'm like, "Well, if you don't understand African cichlids, the more you have, the less aggression you have." It's the same thing with my 90. I've got some flack over that because of the amount of fish that are in it. Well, if you don't keep African cichlids, then you don't know, and you need to just be quiet.
Right, exactly.
Plain and simple. Well, you've got too many in there. There's 60. I have 60 fish in a 90-gallon tank. They're that long. It's overfiltrated. It gets its water changed. It gets like an 80% water change every 2 weeks. They're fine. They're growing.
So there's nothing but fish at the bottom, right?
They're down at the bottom like shit. They ain't got no water. They're taken care of. So I don't know why everybody feels they got to be the world's police on fish. That just upsets me. But I forgot. I've lost my damn train of thought. There goes that mana kicking in for me.
Hey, as long as everything's healthy, man, that's the point. Some of the things they bred, like some of the goldfish that I've seen, and some of the weird mollies, the balloon mollies and stuff, the thing could barely move, man. It's like, so is this really good for this animal? I mean, sometimes it's obviously not, man. But sometimes it's on the fence, like, it's probably great, but as long as the fish ain't suffering, it's doing okay. It doesn't know any better. It doesn't know it's supposed to be able to swim fast. Maybe it's fine.
Yeah.
Maybe it's happy or content. I don't know if they could be happy or not, but at least they're not suffering in any way. I don't like that part. But,
I've had my heart broken with some Aranda goldfish, man. I mean, they're derpy little fish. They're personable. You know what I mean? But they just swim bladder. And I just had one not that long ago that died, and it pissed me off because I'm like, you know what? I won't get any more. I don't care. Unless somebody gives it to me, I'm not getting it. I'm not going to buy one. I'm not going to waste my money. I'm not going to grow it out and get attached to it because it sucks.
Yeah, sense.
The one thing that I've realized. Uh-oh. You all right?
I'm fine. You glitched out on me.
Oh. Anything's possible.
You're back.
Am I there now?
You're back. Yeah, everything's fine now.
The one thing for me is I've got 6 Oscars. I don't have as many as only Oscars. I don't have 80 or 90 Oscars. I have 6. I had this guy, my big guy in here. I had a guy told me that I should euthanize the fish because it's sick. It was in a tank by itself. It was actually in there with a pleco. He was lonely. He was just laying at the bottom, moping around. I'm like, I watch him eat. I know he eats. I watched him poop. You know what I mean? I know he's doing what he's supposed to do. I said, well, let me move you and see what happens. So I took him and put him in my 125 with a bunch of other fish, completely different fish. Changed it. So some people out there give out bad information. You got to watch those people. I don't like misinformation. That's like when it comes down to testing your water for your water parameters. If you do it long enough, you know what you're looking at. You know what I mean? That's why you see my wife put in early, we never test our water. Well, that's because we know what we're looking for. You know what I mean? I know the way my fish are. I know how my fish act. I know if something's wrong. I know how to intervene. You know what I mean? I may not, if I, at that point in time, then,
me.
Well, lagging out, it's probably me.
There, you're back.
But yeah, the majority of the time I don't test my water unless I know there's an issue. If there's an issue, then I'll test it. I know which way I need to react.
Yeah, it's like we talked about earlier. I know my tanks probably need the water change because you just kind of know. You do it long enough. Something isn't quite right here. But my frog grow outs, it's important to change the water often as you can because things like hormones and stuff are getting out of water. You have some fish that will put off a lot of hormones to slow everything else's growth down. And so you're trying to get that out of there to keep things growing good. So that's a little different situation than just water parameters. I can't test for hormones in the water. So, I just got to do a water change because I know it's probably getting high.
My fry tanks are 3 times a week religiously. And they're usually 80% water changes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, everybody says we're both coming too great.
Hey, maybe it's mine. I don't know. I'm going to try something. I'm going to go over here. I've got some golden, one of those things, golden wonder killifish. They usually breed like crazy. Their eggs are kind of big. I'm going to pull one of the spawning mops. I've quit pulling the mops because I have so many of these things. I've got so many tanks full of these things. It's crazy. I probably have 200 fry.
I'll give you my address.
If you want to, we could try something. If you want to try to raise some, hatch them out because they hatch out. They eat baby brine shrimp and whatever kind of flake it. They'll eat anything basically. They're easy to try. I could just send you some eggs to see if you can hatch. I've never tried it on these species, send them through the mail like that. But that's typical with killifish. Sending eggs through the mail is kind of how you do it. You go on the aqua bid and buy eggs like you saw the eggs you were going to buy. But
Yeah.
these are different. These will hatch fairly quickly. You don't have to wait months. You can try it and see if it'll work. So if I want to try to sell them to somebody else, I can. But I want to see if I can find some. Maybe I can show my camera. If the camera, I bet I can see eggs on that. Give me a second. This would be kind of cool if it's loaded. I haven't checked it in a while, so I don't know if they're breeding still or not. Let me take a look. Let's see. Getting old, I got to take the glasses off. Oh, there's an egg right there. Sometimes I pull 50, 60 eggs off this moths. So let's see if we can.
I can see it.
See if it'll focus. Let me get my face out of the picture. Maybe it'll focus. Yeah, you can still see the egg.
Yep,
and these things are cool because you can handle them without any kind of problem. You can kind of see it right there. Let's do this.
Yep.
That's not going to focus on it. But anyhow, you can see the egg. And you can squeeze them. You almost can't pop them. You have to try. So you can just pull them off there and put them in your media or in your water. So that's just what a spawning mop looks like. There's some of these, it's just acrylic yarn. You don't want to use any natural products. You don't want to use cotton or anything like that. You use the acrylic because the cotton will break down and start rotting in your water. It's a natural product. But some of these killifish like to basically go into a log and now find the little slit or a rock, a little seam in the rock, and they'll shove their eggs up in that. So the way you simulate that is you just take another zip tie or rubber band or tie it off into little sections. So now you've got these like little areas in here where they can lay their eggs. So you just do a bunch of little zip ties in there or whatever, and then do that. Nice. But and that's just a cork, and I use a zip tie to make them. It's super cheap. And to make the thing, I took a PVC. I make a lot of these. I sell them, and I have tons of them in my rooms. So I took a PVC pipe and I've notched out both ends. So it's kind of like a little U notch in there, and then I'll wrap my yarn around that with the cork sitting on top, just kind of wrap around. I've got a huge container of these corks that my wife found at some yard sale somewhere. They're practically giving them away, like $5 for this huge, massive container of them. They're all brand new. So drop that back.
I'm looking at this one little, this one Severum in this tank that he's the biggest one in here. That might be the one I keep.
So I enjoy breeding killifish. It's not that difficult in most of the cases. They've got a breeder award program set up here in my local club, and I just haven't actually had time to document what I'm doing. But I figured it out that I would already be like the top level if I had documented everything that I'm breeding. But it's just a matter of documenting. It's kind of usually have time to sit there and try to get photographs of the eggs, get photographs of the parents, because a lot of the breeding containers they're hiding in. I don't see the adults a lot. Sometimes they'll come out and I'm feeding them, but as soon as I pull a camera up, boom, they shoot to the back. They get scared and can't see anything. So it's hard to get photos. And then how they want photos of the eggs and the fry. Well, the fry all look exactly the same. So giving you pictures of some tiny little fish that looks like an eyelash with eyeballs, how would you know?
Yeah.
I can just take lots of different pictures of the same batch and say, "Oh, look what I'm doing." You never know. No one would ever know. But I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I think some of the ways they want you to do things is a little wild. I was looking into how they want you to, like the Ohio Cichlid Association, how they do their things and what they want. They want you to document the entire process, like down to what your water parameters are.
Yeah, that's what they want to. Yeah.
I'm like, wow.
Yeah. Because the idea would be so somebody else could reproduce what you did, so that data wouldn't be lost. That's the idea.
Hey, welcome. That's a new name. New for me, anyway.
Cosman?
Yeah.
Oh, man, he's been around a long time.
New name for me. Never. Welcome.
Cool. Yeah, he's a good guy.
So do you ever have your snakes ever breed anything like that?
You know, I have never intentionally bred snakes. I don't know. It's okay. I'm probably gonna get in trouble with some of the reptile community, but I just never enjoyed the people that were breeding snakes there. Breeding a lot of things. There's some friends. I do have some friends that breed or good breeders, but just the overall feel of everything just never seemed right to me. So I just never got involved in trying to breed anything with those. But now the fish community is way different. I totally enjoy most of the fish keepers that I know of. I've got a couple other killifish guys here, uh, like Hans with the blue blade fish. He's another local guy. I mean, we always help each other out. And there's another guy named Steve. He's with Addicting Aquatics. He was actually Aquashello the last couple of years. Uh, and he first year he wholesaled a bunch of my killifish. He's like last minute. He was like, "Oh man, those would do good out here." So he just called me and said, "Hey, can you do you have any fish you could wholesale?" And I said, "Yeah, I got several species." So I gave him wholesaled him a bunch of stuff and dropped him off at the show for him. Helped him kind of set the show up and everything, get his booth all set up, and then he he does more of a cichlids. So he had all these tanks set up, and he was dipping cichlids out and actually bagging them up right there at the show to sell. And he had all the killifish just kind of like tucked away. And I was like, "God, I don't know, man. That's not a very good way of of showing them off and promoting them." But I guess somebody saw them and started buying a few of them. The word got out, and he like all sold all. He sold out all but a couple bags of fish, and I was like pretty impressed. So I've been wanting to do aquashella, but the problem is that the prices of booze, around $900 for
Oh
a
wow.
10 by 10 booth. Yeah, and for me that's a lot of killifish I got to sell. And my wife does all the art stuff. That's a lot I got to sell just to cover the cost of a booth, not covering the cost of the breed the animals, all the food and all the overhead you have there. So you start doing the math on it, and even if I sold out everything I had, at the end of the day, my profit wouldn't be that much. And you start going, okay, I put all that time and effort in, and I got this much return. It doesn't make any sense to me. So I
No,
really
I
can't
agree.
afford to do aquashella. It's. But if I did aquashella, you get your name out there, and then you get residual sales later on. So you're not just making the money you make at the show. You're making money that people know who you are. You get your name out there. So you got to consider that as part of your profits too. But that's hard to quantify. You have no idea what that's going to turn into. That might turn into anything. But of course, then again, you might have a people waiting list of stuff. You don't know how it's going to work out. So I just haven't been able to pull the trigger yet on that big of a show. The one in Houston is more expensive this year than it was last, but still, it's not even close to what that is. Uh, so it's like less than a third of that. So I could do that no problem. And so I think it's going to be a great show this year. The one show we did here locally in the beginning of the year, we showed up to the show. I had everything ready to go, and my daughter got in a car wreck, and
Oh no.
a bad car wreck, bad enough that she flipped the other vehicle over.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Well, once I was trying to get from her, how bad was the wreck, and as soon as she said the other vehicle was on its top or on its side, I'm going, oh, okay, that's a bad accident.
Yes.
And luckily she walked away pretty unscathed, pretty bruised up, a seat belt bruise and a bruise on her leg from hitting something, but she was all right. But I kicked off a series of car wrecks that's just almost comical. So she had that car wreck completely destroyed her vehicle. Then I got in a car wreck, but that first car wreck was my fault. I didn't see another car was behind another car. I tried to go across the 2-lane road. I didn't know there was a car kind of hidden. And he tried to get around me, just caught the front of my car, spun me, ripped the whole of his door. The metal part of his door was stuck up under my bumper. I just took it right off. It was like really, really weird accident. And then after that, I got the vehicle fixed. I was driving and come to a stoplight, and the guy rear-ended me 3 days after I had the new car. I was like, okay, great. Get that fixed. Then a deer jumped out in front of me. So I swerved, and I just caught the corner. He got just a couple of scratches on the bumper, and then put a dent in the side of the door. So I'm at 65 miles an hour. It's dark. That deer just came running as fast as it could, and I was situationally aware I knew I could go in the left lanes. There's nobody coming. You can see forever. And there's a big, huge median, was just mowed, real short. So I just hit that left side and almost got around that deer. So technically, he kind of hit me. Is how it worked. And then after that, we're sitting at a reptile show, and my youngest daughter was going to go let our dogs out, and she sends us, my wife, a text message with her and her best friend smiling, looking at a bumper, kind of a selfie thing with a bumper in the background. What in the world is this? There's a note from my neighbor that he backed all the way across, his new neighbor, brand new neighbor. He backed out of his driveway, across the road, into our driveway, and into the back of her car. And at that point, we're just laughing. We're just like, there's no freaking way, you know? And then after that, my that daughter's fiance fell asleep in traffic. And just, basically, he was all right, you just start to stop, put him off the bumper and off the pedal and smack the car behind him. Then there was one other wreck. I can't remember what else there was. I was like, this has got to stop.
Absolutely. That's too many cars.
Oh, yeah, it was crazy. I didn't even get the deer wreck fixed on my car. I was just like, you know what? I don't want to take the time to deal with this. It's only a small little cut and a little ding on the side of the door. I was like, I'm not messing with it. I'm just not. I'm done.
I was going to work one morning, and I'm driving down Route 21 here, and a deer comes running across the street, runs into my car. I stop. You hear these kids screaming, "Oh my God, you hit that deer. You should have watched out." I said, that deer hit me. That deer's lucky I got up and ran, because I was going to beat it to death right there in the middle of the street. And then chuck it in the trunk of my car and take it home, man. That'd have been some shit. I'd have beat the hell out of the deer, field dressed it right in front of a whole school bus full of kids and chucked it in the bed of my car. They would have been upset. But yeah,
around here, you probably wouldn't have been. The kids are into that kind of thing,
Yeah, not here. I'd have been on the news. Crazy man kills deer in front of school bus full of kids. News at 5.
Yeah, I shot a deer. I always clean my own animals, so I completely process it. Nobody ever touches anything I shoot. So I shot a deer, brought it in the backyard, had it hanging in the back, cleaning it out. And the next door neighbors, we kind of live in a neighborhood, so all have like a third acre. So we're not top of each other. We're spread out a little bit. But the kids next door used to play with my kids. We're all friends and everything. So I hear them come out in the backyard, and I got this deer skinning it all the way down. And I'm going, oh, man, I hope they're okay with this. And heard them yelling across the fence, "Hey, can we come over and play?" I'm going, I don't know. So I went over and talked to their parents. Well, I was talking to the kids. And they go, "Oh, yeah, we go out hunting all the time at the ranch. And that's, my dad skins deer and stuff all the time. So, okay, come on over. No problem." They didn't even pay attention to me cleaning the deer. And the kid goes, "Yeah," he goes, "We were out at the camp one time, and they had the big freezers all set up with deer in them that everybody had been killing. And I had to charge up my little game pad. So I unplugged the freezer, plugged his game pad in, and forgot to plug the freezer back in. Oh. So as punishment, they made him clean out the freezer." Yeah. I was like, I bet he never does that again.
I bet I can smell that from here.
Oh, man, that was oof.
That would have to be brutal. Well, you got to think about it, man. You see one, there's one on the side of the road as you're driving by, you can smell it. So,
oh, yeah, that'd be a horrific. I wouldn't want to do that. Oh, God, no. I grew up in Southwest Pennsylvania, which is not too terribly far from where you're at. This is the same region. But, man, I remember me being about 10 years old, going out and using a tractor and pulling trees out of the woods by ourselves alone. My dad's sleeping in the house because he works. He just got off the shift before we got home. He went to bed, left a note for mom, told her in the note where all the logs were he cut down during the day before we got home. And then we had to go in the woods and pull them out on our own. My brother was 3 years younger, so he had a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old up in the woods, hooking on big chains, driving a tractor, pulling trees out of the woods. So when you start doing that as a kid, you get a sense of responsibility and safety is a pretty high priority, because you realize if you screw up, nobody's coming for a while. It's going to be several hours before they realize didn't come back. So you were extremely careful everything you did and used common sense. And we even had to go through like a little swampy area we always get hung up in. So you had to know how to navigate the swamp to get out of there, towing a tree. But we never had any issues. We did that for all summer, all fall. About this time of year, you'd start pulling trees out. That was a lot of fun. And he pulled
It
trees
sounds
one
like
night, and then he would cut up the smaller limbs, and he'd stack that when he got home. And we hated the rest of the week sucked because you had to stack all the firewood that he cut up, and then he would split everything. You had to stack that all up, and you had to get through all that to get the reward to drive the tractor up in the woods and pulling out trees. The freaking chain was so big on that tractor that we used that I couldn't pull it all at one time. I had to pull sections of it to get it to where I wanted it to go. And my little brother, he'd be wandering off somewhere. He's 7 years old, man. He didn't pay attention. I was barely old enough to pay attention to what I was doing. We do that. And the tractor, the clutch on it was so heavy that I had to stand on the clutch and grab the steering wheel and push down to get the clutch to disengage on the thing.
Oh, yeah, that's a stiff.
then
That's a whole
engage it.
manual clutch.
Yeah, it's an old steel tractor with the wide tires in front, not the little skinny things, you know.
Absolutely.
Man, you let that thing go and it would shoot my foot in the air and I just come off the clutch and jerk. You know. That was the days. It had the brakes where you had the little lever that went between the two brake pads because one brake pad went locked the one tire up and the other brake pedal would lock the other tire up. So you could make that thing turn on a dime. You just lock one tire up and turn the wheel, and it would just turn right on, pivot right on that tire.
Turn right on a dime.
Goes between them. Yeah, you had a little lever between them, so you put both brakes on at the same time.
Yeah, I see these guys back here panicking, so I had to turn that light off.
What were they
I can see them over my shoulder acting stupid.
Getting hungry?
No, Sunday is their fasting day.
Okay.
I do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. They fast.
Okay. I usually skip a day or once in a while too here. Usually it's more out of necessity because I'm just so busy I can't get to it. But,
Mine's out of the fact that these bastards eat me out of house and home. So my food bill was getting up there for a while until I realized that, hey, maybe I am in fact overfeeding my fish. So I tested a theory, and I noticed that my theory was correct. I saved myself about $100.
That's good. It's surprising how little they can eat. If you're not trying to breed or anything, you're just trying to maintain. Man, they eat way less than people think. You know, it's amazing how little they can eat.
And the fact,
smaller fish.
the amount of time they can go between meals too.
Oh yeah.
So everybody's like, "Oh, you got to feed them every day, 2-3 times a day." No, you don't.
Now the fry, that's
fry,
good.
yes. Regular fish, no. You know, my fry, like I said, I feed them twice a day, morning and evening. I feed them before I go to work, feed them when I get home from work.
Exactly.
Sometimes if I'm bored in the middle of the night and I wake up, I'll feed them again. But other than that, no. He has a 52, whatever the hell, Chalmers. My daughter ended up going down a ditch because she didn't lock the. Oh, no.
Yeah. I can see it happen. It turns real fast when you hit that one brake. It locks that tire up, man. It just pivots.
There's a lot of people that don't know how to drive old farm equipment, man.
I remember when I was a kid getting a booster shot for my tetanus, and to keep the arm freed up, my dad made me drive that tractor, old manual tractor, man. Oh man, whenever that hurt, and he said, "No, you got to work it out." Oh, this sucks.
Yeah,
Dad start babying it. He goes, "No, use the other arm too." And it's like, oh no, oh.
Yeah, that tetanus shot to make your arm sore for a few days. You don't work it out, it gets real sore.
So yeah, that's how he had to make work it out, driving that tractor around.
I got to get mine before I get my hip done.
Oh man,
yeah.
What's wrong with your hip?
I was born with cam deformities in both hips. I was born with a broken neck and 2 bad legs. I got handed a raw deal right out the womb. You know what I mean? Yep. As I got older, I developed hip dysplasia, so my feet kicked out. I wore my joint out. And 23, was it 23? Yeah, 23. I had my left hip replaced completely, and I got to have the other one done in January. I'm only 43, man. At 42 years old, I had a full hip replacement.
That does not sound like fun at all. Oh my God, no.
I'm going to be honest with you. That was probably the easiest thing I've ever recovered from.
Oh, really?
Man, I went in the hospital. I had to be there at 6 in the morning. Surgery was at 7. I got up and walked out of there at 11 o'clock and came home the same day. I had 29 staples in my leg. I think I used painkillers for like 2 days and I was done with them. The only thing that hurt was the incision, and it was because of the staples. But other than that, the pain was gone, dude. I was in so much pain. I would go to work. I'd work 10 hours. I'd come home and sit down. I would have to eat and I would have to shower and eat dinner first before I sit down. Because once I sat down, it was over with until midnight. I couldn't get up.
Oh man, yeah. I had a bad foot. I had to have surgery on an ankle. I had a couple joints in there grow together as a kid, and man, I always had severe joint pains and knee, back, everything all out of whack. So eventually, they could figure it out when I was a kid. But when I got to adult, man, it's hurt so bad that I'd probably be in tears every night, man. I just could not take it. Taking ibuprofen like crazy, trying to knock the pain down, and Tylenol. And so finally had that surgery, and after that, man, it made a big, huge difference. I guess they had to go and chisel a piece of part that was grown between a couple of joints, and that wasn't a fun recovery at all. Though that they did something, he aggravated the nerve in there, and so my foot went to sleep. I mean, it was asleep so bad that I could have stuck a nail right through the top of my toe and never known it. It was completely dead. So I called him back up, and I was like, okay, this is a couple days after surgery, and I still cannot feel my foot at all. I could feel it for a day or so, but now it's gone. And he's like, well, we'll come back in. Maybe we got the dressing too tight. We're cutting off circulation to it, or we're pinching the nerve or something that way. Just trust me. I know I didn't cut any nerves. I moved things out of the way, but I didn't cut anything. You're fine. I said, okay. So I'm back, and he rewrapped everything. So everything looked like it was right. And then after several more days of being numb, you know how your leg goes to sleep and it feels like tingly?
Yeah.
Yeah. It did that for a full week. My foot was just that tingly sensation. That was the most painful part of the whole surgery. Just that super sharp pain, needles like in your foot. Oh man, that sucked so bad. But once that went away, it wasn't too bad anymore. But man, that was brutal.
No, my mom was not charged with prenatal abuse of an unborn infant. That was in the 80s, man. They didn't have a clue what they were going to do with me. You know, I'm amazed I made it, to be honest with you. The neck, my chin was back here when I was born.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were able to get that straightened out. I went through, my mom said she had to do physical therapy with me like every day, 3 or 4 times a day for like 6 months. And I'll tell you what, man, my neck is perfect. I have no issues. But my legs, completely different.
That's crazy. I get something going on with my back. I got a disc or something that's messed up. Because every once in a while, it'll just for like almost no reason at all. I can't stand up. If I go real slow, I get myself standing all the way up. Once I'm standing all the way up, I'm okay. But I can't move wrong. It'll spasm. And
shooting, stabbing pain. I get it.
Stabbing. Yeah. It's just not fun, man. It did it yesterday. I was doing that training. I stood all day long. It was fine until I started messing with the venomous snakes, teaching people, and that sucker started spazzing like that. And I'm going, this is not ideal. This kind of sucks.
I've been walking around.
I could work all day long. I could pick up stuff. I mean, I could work hard all day long, a whole weekend, and not have any back pain at all. But then 2 weeks later, I stand up off a chair, and then all of a sudden I hit the floor. It's like, what the heck? What the heck is this? You know? And then all of a sudden you notice, hey, wait, I'm walking around. There's no pain. It was this morning I couldn't really walk, but I'm fine now. It's just weird. It's just getting old. I'm 50 now.
It is.
So maybe I'm crashing.
43, man. I've been walking around for the last 2 weeks with my not being able to feel my toes in my right foot.
Oh man.
Pins and needles, baby. I know the feeling. I've been walking around like that. It'll go from where I can't feel my toes to where up half of my calf I can't feel it, and that's from the nerve being pinched in my back. Sciatica is a bitch. It is.
Yeah. Ugh.
It plagues you. It plagues us older, heavier set gentlemen a lot.
It's the same problem. Yep. Your weight forward a little bit and puts more pressure on your back, and it ain't good.
Yeah, you got to figure. You got the belly hanging up front. It's constantly pulling on your back. If you notice, I was diagnosed with Graves' disease, I don't know, a couple years back, and I lost like 95 pounds in 6 months.
Dang.
And I'm gonna be honest with you, my back hurt me more then than it does now. And I'm talking to the doctor about it. He's like, yeah, well, think about this. I'm like, okay, let's go. He's like, you're a mechanic. Think about the mechanics of a body. He's like, you have a lot more weight hanging on the front that you don't have hanging there now. your bones, your muscles are used to holding that weight. So now they're reconditioning themselves to not hold that weight. I'm like,
You went so fast, your body couldn't ever
catch up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it finally caught up, and I was like, all right, cool, we're good. And then I started gaining the weight back again. So, but man, it hasn't been a terrible way to go, with the hip surgery. I have complete full range of motion now that I didn't have before. They tell you you're not really technically supposed to be able to cross your leg ever again in your life. I cross my leg, no problem. There's a lot of things they tell you can't do that I can do.
You just kind of ignore what people tell you can't do, and you figure out what your own limits are. Don't set those mental limits because somebody else told you that was going to happen.
If I pop it out, I have to have surgery to put it back in. They can't just pop it back in like the old one. So they literally have to cut my leg back open and put it in. I'm like, yay. So remind me not to pop that bitch out.
Yeah.
You know what, man? I have to say that I was all of March, all of April, May, and June. I was out for the the recovery process. And I think I came back to work a little too early because I tore a muscle off the bone as soon as I came back. And I'm like, well, now I really have to take it easy. So I had to take it easy for another few weeks, and then I got everything going right again, and then I've had no issues since. Soreness took over a year to go away completely. But gone. I'm good.
That's awesome.
Yes. Well, sir, we are at the 2 hour and 11 minute and 57 second mark.
Awesome.
So.
Going back quick.
It does. I think we're going to call it here. Hang tight.
Okay.
Got anything you want to say to anybody in the chat?
Thanks for being here. Tommy, I'll get with you. We'll get outside more. We did a little quick thing out at the nature center. Saw some alligators. One of the things we were looking for was some gators, and I saw Tommy's soul leave his body that day. He almost stepped on a snake. It was about a 3-foot water snake. Like it was just a water snake, jet black. And yeah, he did some high stepping and some squealing. He actually walked past it. He didn't see it. I was like, hey, look at that. And he's like, ah! So that was fun.
Oh, so I appreciate you being here, everybody. We appreciate you being here in the chat. You guys have a great night. Thank you for being here. Remember, guys, it's your hobby. Do it your way.